Welcome to Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska. The Cornhuskers Marching Band have been a staple since 1879. Led by Anthony Falcone, enjoy a taste of dear old Nebraska U.
It's football Saturday in Memorial Stadium, and there is no place like Nebraska.
The sweet sounds of the Nebraska Marching Band as we welcome you into historic Memorial Stadium for our game this afternoon on the Big Ten Network. It is great to have you with us. I am Tom Wormy. This is an interesting matchup. You've got Idaho State out of the football championship subdivision. They have the second best passing attack in all the country at that level. For Nebraska, they're going to get a look at Rex Burkhead, who has not seen action since the first game of the year. Since 1992, Husker home games have opened with the tunnel walk. Before the team enters the field, Memorial Stadium becomes a sea of red, and the third largest city in the state, 80,000 strong. A nation of Husker fans all unite for this moment. The Cornhuskers set to take the field. Here at Memorial Stadium, the Nebraska Cornhuskers out of the tunnel. It is a sea of big red here in Lincoln, Nebraska. Special Saturdays in college football. And one of the most special is right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, as the Huskers will take on the Bengals from Idaho State. What a scene it is. BTN football is presented by John Deere. And our matchup this afternoon, it's the Bengals from Idaho State out of the football championship subdivision, 1-1 on the season, against the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 2-1 and ranked 25th in the nation. Again, it is great to have you with us. Kelly Stauffer joins me. And Kelly, this Bengal team just loves to throw the football all over the field. The Nebraska secondary will be tested in this one.
Well, certainly will. I think Idaho State, their goal is to throw it at least 80 times today. Nebraska defensively, people want to know if they have chemistry that's kind of coming together. And I thought we were going to break down Taylor Martinez's throwing motion. Everybody else in the country does.
Well, he's already put up some great numbers. His completion rate is over 70%. One interception, and he can do it with his feet as well.
I think truly an improved passer today. I think his decision-making has been very good. But I think a dynamic runner. He gets to that top end speed really, really quickly. But the decision making, 7 touchdowns, 1 INT. But at Nebraska, you're measured on whether you win championships. You're able to flex your muscle if you win championships here in Lincoln.
And across the way for Idaho State, it is the senior quarterback, Kevin Yost. He might have to ice his arm down after this one.
No
107 pass attempts in just 2 games this year.
And he completes a ton of them, almost 75%. They will throw it early, often. Don't look for him to run it much. It's all about the screen game. But can they score enough points to keep up with Nebraska today?
All right, Kelly, time for Stauffer's recipes for success, the Bengals and Huskers.
Yeah, Idaho State can't fracture. If things start to go bad, they have to keep their poise, which isn't easy to do in front of 90,000 people here in Lincoln. They have to maintain the ball and possess it offensively, not just drive the ball, but get points when they drive the ball. And Nebraska, conversely, it's about the little things in this game. Execution of the details is front and center for the Huskers here today, but they also defensively have to limit run after the catch for Idaho State. Idaho State's offense is all about what they do with it after they catch it.
Kelly, thanks for that. Today's sideline reports are brought to you by Best Buy, and for those all game long, it'll be former Husker Damon Benning.
Guys, you talk about the defense and the interchangeable parts. That secondary will be tested early and often. You'll see a plethora of guys back there trying to man the position. But the one thing Coach Pelini talks about is they're their own standard. It doesn't matter what the opponent does. It's what we as a defense bring to the table. On offense, guys, it's simple. What parts of our game are portable as we move towards the Big Ten Conference season? Can we run the ball when we want to run the ball, not when we need to run the ball? We know we're explosive on offense. How do we stay within ourselves as we move towards November and December, the money months in the state of Nebraska?
Thank you, Damon. The head coaches for our game today. On the left, it is Mike Kramer in his 2nd year at Idaho State and 15th year overall. And on the right, it is Bo Pelini, a slight health scare last week against Arkansas State. Had to leave the game at halftime. He told us yesterday he's feeling great and looking forward to some college football.
Yeah, that tough Ohio background. He didn't exactly want to talk to you about that yesterday.
No, but he feels good today, and the weather is simply spectacular. Close to 60 degrees. The winds are light, and it's going to be sunny all afternoon long here at Memorial Stadium.
First day of fall, and what a place to be playing football the first day of fall here in Lincoln.
And there is a crisp chill in the air. It is football weather. You can smell the pigskin. We are ready for the opening kickoff. Dave Whitvote will be our referee amongst our officials this afternoon here on BTN. Little squib kick to get it started. Bouncing up, Jamal Turner will grab it. Across the 25. Turner gets the 40. And he stumbles down near midfield for the Huskers. That a 29-yard return. Idaho State won the toss and deferred. That's why they kicked off. They will get the ball to start the second half. But great field position for Taylor Martinez as he leads the Nebraska offense onto the field for its first possession.
Taylor Martinez completing 71% of his passes, 7 touchdowns, only 1 INT, and look for them to pick up the pace here against Idaho State today.
Nebraska ranked 25th in the country, 2-1 on the season. Burkhead, the fake to him. Now Martinez trying to create. He'll step out of bounds after an 11-yard gain. Demetrius Allen forced him out. Here is the rest of the Nebraska offense. And we'll start with that offensive line and Justin Jackson right in the middle, the senior from Oroka, Nebraska, moving from the defensive line from last year to the center position this year. The backs and receivers. Rex Burkhead is in the game, number 22. Only 3 carries on the season, a knee sprain in the opening game against Southern Miss. Expected to get about 15 carries today. They try to dump it off to Burkhead, and the pass is short. Let's take a look at today's Auto Owners Insurance starting defense. For Coach Kramer, it's an interesting formation here with Austin Graves and Jake Rouser up front. And then they back that up with all these linebackers, including Mitch Beckstead, who has 19 tackles to lead the team in a fumble recovery. Here is second down for Nebraska. In the scarlet and cream from the 40 of the Bengals. Burkhead inside the 35 for Rex Burkhead. He's got 6 on that carry. The remaining defense now for Idaho State. And the secondary, Anthony Boyles and Donovan Henley on the corners. Cameron Gupton missed all of last season with an injury. He's back in the mix for Idaho State in the defensive backfield. Good look at Anthony Boyles, the senior from Los Angeles, California, in that secondary. 3rd and 4 for Nebraska. Martinez with the throw to no one, incomplete. Really wasn't a receiver in the vicinity of the football there, Kelly.
Yeah, that's probably the most scrutinized position, not only in Nebraska, but specifically Taylor Martinez's throwing ability, his fundamentals of throwing. Everyone in the country has broken down his throwing motion one time or another this year, but you could see on that particular play, it's not really about the fundamentals that I would be concerned about. It's about the decision making, and his decision making this year has been pretty darn good up to this point.
Well, here is a 51-yard attempt now by Brett Maher. First attempt into the UCLA game, and this one is no good. Not enough distance underneath that crossbar for Maher, who had been 3 of 6 in field goal attempts so far this season. So here's our Twitter poll. How many carries will Rex Burkhead get today? You got 15 or more or 14 or less. The coaches told us 15. Burkhead did not have a carry in the first series for Nebraska. Turner had a great return to get it started, but the drive stalls. Here is 1st and 10 for the Bengals, who will throw that ball on just about every single down. Kevin Yost, completion to Roderick Rumble, who had not been a part of the last 2 games, but there are the numbers for Yost. Just 2 games so far this year, Kelly.
Yeah, it's almost 75%, and you're exactly right. Their screen game is their run game, and Yost controls most of this entire offense at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes there are multiple, either a run-pass option or a pass-pass option, but look for him to throw it 80+ today if they have their way.
Idaho State, average passing yards on the season, 443, second best in all of the country. It's going to be a sack for Nebraska. Cameron Meredith, a loss of 7 on the sack. That's the 2nd of the season for Cameron Meredith.
And Cameron Meredith coming off the bottom side here and just gets a very good push. And this is something, if there's good coverage in the secondary, Nebraska's defensive front 7 will get pressure on Yost today.
Here is the offensive line for that Idaho State team. Mark Clampett is the 4-year starter at right guard. The backs and receivers. Rumble back into the mix after not playing in the last 2 games. This is only the 3rd game of the season for Idaho State. Cam Richmond couldn't haul that one in. Josh Mitchell on the coverage. So that'll be a punting situation for Idaho State.
What Nebraska's going to have to do today is they will have their nickel and dime package in the game almost exclusively. They have to communicate defensively against that screen game, not give up yards after the catch, and they have to be buttoned up on the back end not to give up big plays to Idaho State.
C.J. Reyes with the rugby-style kick. Amir Abdullah will field it at the 33. And Abdullah stumbling down at the 32. It's a 35-yard punt, -1 on the return for Abdullah.
And Abdullah had a wall to this right side. If he gets to it, he takes it to the end zone. You'll see Idaho State punt like this today, but the shake and bake. But if he doesn't get tripped up right there, to the alley and to the end zone for Amir.
BTN Football is presented by John Deere, the all-new, all-powerful Gator RSX 850i. Also in part by MFS Investment Management. Welcome back to Lincoln, Nebraska. The Dairy Cows, part of our backdrop here in Lincoln. And you look at Memorial Stadium. It's just an amazing number. The 321 consecutive sellouts. That is an NCAA record. And they've won 76% of their games. Now, you harken back to 62. That's the last time there wasn't a sellout. Look at these numbers. I mean, how much was a quart of milk back then from those dairy cows,
that's
Kelly?
pretty amazing. No question about that.
And look at the chart topper. Ray Charles, I Can't Stop Loving You. When we showed Kelly this graphic earlier.
Let's sing that. I'll maybe get into that a little later.
Singing it. We'll see if Taylor Martinez can produce some sweet music here on the second drive of the game for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who had great field position to start their first drive. Not bad here from about the 32-yard line. With 12:24 to go in the first here.
And Idaho State is getting charged with this timeout, but Coach Kramer doesn't exactly know what was going on there. I don't know what his beef is, but he certainly called the officials over to see. They called the players back on the field. I know Idaho State isn't used to playing on television. We had a television break, and you have to be ready to go when what they call the Red Hat says it's time to roll.
Well, Idaho State plays out of the Big Sky Conference. And Mike Kramer has 80 wins. He's had 15 years in that conference. So
certainly an icon in that conference. It's a different story here today in Memorial Stadium.
So 1st and 10. Burkhead with his first carry. And he will rumble up close to first down yardage. Goes out of bounds near the 45-yard line. Demetrius Allen had the tackle along with Phil Pleasant.
This is what Idaho State, I think, is going to have trouble with. Nebraska gets in the eye, and they put their big fullback in, Mike Morrow, up in front of Burkhead, and Burkhead just takes it outside. That was a pretty good sign. Nebraska's going to get charged right now with illegal substitution. They had too many guys on the field, but.
Well, you can see what Nebraska has done on first down. Again, there is a flag on the play, and it will go against Nebraska.
Well, Tommy, that stat is a very good one, obviously, but first down passing this year, Taylor Martinez is 20 out of 26. That's where this offense is really taking a giant step forward. But I was going to say on that last play, Burkhead went to his right. In the end, he had to cut left on that left leg, and it looked pretty good.
That's just the 4th carry of the season for Burkhead, and here's number 5. He goes to the left side. Burkhead across midfield, shakes a man. Can he do it? Burkhead to the end zone for Nebraska.
The balloons are back. Game 1, they didn't have them because of a helium shortage, but they're back now, and this is what Idaho State's going to have trouble with. You can see actually the 3 pullers out front, 3 offensive linemen getting out in front of Burkhead, and that left knee looks pretty good, fellas, on that play.
Extra point is good. Kelly, that's a 61-yard run for the TD, a career long for Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, and that over and under to how many touches Burkhead's going to get today, actually, I think went down right there. With this early success, I don't know how much we're going to see number 22 on the afternoon.
Rex Burkhead going 61 yards for the score, and Nebraska leads Idaho State 7-0 here in the first quarter on BTN. Join the BTN Connect universe. Stay connected to your team's tweets and stay ahead of the curve on today's biggest trends. Go to btn.com/connect. Kelly Stauffer will be there. Look at him go. He's high tech.
Makes it easy. I'm learning about this stuff. Welcome me to the Twitter world.
The Twitterverse has welcomed in Kelly Stauffer. BTN Connect. Make sure you connect with BTN. So Boyles and Henry will be the deep men to receive the kickoff from Brett Maher, who last year was all conference in both kicking and punting. Kicker of the year and punter of the year. Halfway deep in the end zone. Still driving all the way up to the 20. It's quite a return there from Donovan Henley. Here's the Speedway scoring drive. 68 yards, 61 of them from Rex Burkhead.
Well, that's exactly what it was a Speedway. a drag strip, actually. And Burkhead looked pretty darn good. That left knee, there was a little limp in it. but at the end of the day, you get from point A to point B pretty quickly.
Well, that was his second carry of 50 or more yards and just 6 rushing attempts this season. Let's get out to Damon Benning.
Guys, the interesting thing about Rex is I think Kelly hit the nail right on the head. You know, the number was set at anywhere between 10 to 15 carries, and the quicker start he gets off to, the easier it'll be for him to sit back and be a spectator, especially as we talked about earlier, they open up with Wisconsin in a week.
You know, Damon, the thing that I would wonder is if they make him enter the game a couple of different times after setting out to see how that knee responds, that would be the only thing that I think would elevate his carries today.
Kelly, without a doubt, anytime you have an MCL, I had one against Okie State we got on a Thursday night on ESPN, and I tell you what, it's one that can stiffen up on you in a hurry. You'll see him spend the majority of his time on the bike when he's on the sidelines trying to keep that thing loose, but they'll proceed with caution. Just no yellow sign.
So it is now 3rd and 9 for this Idaho State offense. You hear that big red crowd start to get involved here in the first quarter. Pressure from the outside and a sack. It's Eric Martin. Second sack of the year for number 46, and the second straight 3 and out for Idaho State.
And Eric Martin is that one true edge rusher that Nebraska has. He's going to come off the bottom in a hurry. You can see that get off the line of scrimmage before number 73, Colin Podesta, actually had any opportunity whatsoever to get a hand on him. Very good start and get off by Eric Martin.
So here is Reyes to punt again. Remember, rugby style. He'll just kind of knock it over the line and see what happens. Very low line drive as Abdullah retreats. Ball goes out of bounds. It'll be on the Idaho State side of the 50-yard line. They will mark it at the 44.
And keep an eye on Idaho State's punting today. They're apt to throw it. They'll do about anything. Reeves, that is actually the backup quarterback as well today. If there's an emergency situation, Yost goes down, so the punter can throw it, and anytime they can put the ball in the air, Idaho State will do that this afternoon.
1st and 10 for Nebraska. Martinez going to work out of the shotgun here. Wants to throw. It is incomplete. Let's check in with Damon.
Guys, it's interesting, a little bit of foreshadowing done by Coach Pelini, and talking with him yesterday. He said, you know, there's a lot of hand-wringing and angst over the slow start to the defense, but when you look at the numbers, they had 9 tackles for losses, or excuse me, 9 sacks, 21 tackles for losses. Led the Big Ten coming into week 3, and the guy that he said is the catalyst, the guy that's healthy, that's out there making plays, number 46, Eric Martin.
Thank you, Damon. Damon's reports brought to you by Best Buy all game long. Martinez drops it off. This is Burkhead with some blockers. He's got an entourage, and he's out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Tanner Davis forced him out. Give him 29 yards on the play for Rex Burkhead on the catch and run.
Very well executed. You can see the Nebraska player in motion, bubble screen to one side, throwing it back to the slip screen to Burkhead on the opposite side. If Justin Jackson, number 72, the center, could have found someone to block down the field, Burkhead would have walked into the end zone.
Into the red zone for Nebraska from just inside the 20. Abdullah right up the middle.
And Tom, Abdullah really filled in well for Burkhead in his absence, and it isn't a matter of just a second option. I think it's a matter of being able to take the workload off of Burkhead, which was a goal coming into this year. Keep Burkhead healthy for when Big Ten season starts a week from now.
Abdullah running for 167 yards last week against Arkansas State. This is Martinez running inside the 10. Gupton brought him down. That's 7 yards for Nebraska. Red zone, they've had great success so far this season. 73%. That's 11 touchdowns in 15 trips. On the short yardage play straight ahead.
And Tom, in the red zone, you can throw out the number about how many times they score. Like you just said, it's 11 out of 17 touchdowns in the red zone, and it's all about getting it into the end zone when you get down there. Nebraska, with that dual threat quarterback in Martinez, they're very, very efficient down here.
First and goal for Nebraska. Abdullah has the room, and he's in for the score for the Huskers. An 8-yard run for number 8. Second time into the end zone for Nebraska.
And early on, Nebraska's run game is making it look very easy. The quarterback option, you can see right there, number 46 jumps outside a little bit, but Martinez gives it to Abdullah anyway because he knew he had the speed to get around the edge and easily into the end zone.
That now 11 touchdowns and 16 trips to the red zone for Nebraska. Extra point up and good. 14-0 Huskers.
Well, on the year, Idaho State hasn't defended the run very well. Nebraska's making a pay in that department right now. Abdullah makes it look easy early on in Lincoln.
Some of the greats in the history of Nebraska football, including the trio of Heisman Trophy winners, Crouch, Rozier, and Rogers, and Damakong Suh. Just one of the greats to play defense, the black shirt defense here at Nebraska, as the Huskers lead it 14-0 over Idaho State. Quick drive again for the Huskers. It took just 1:45 seconds. Just 6 plays. Amir Abdullah with that touchdown run, and for him now his second. Correction, 5th for Abdullah this season. Henley, and he'll stay there. The scoring drive was brought to you by Speedway. And Amir Abdullah finished it off with an 8-yard touchdown run, his 5th of the season. 6 plays and 44 yards in just 1:45 seconds. Damon, what do you think thus far about the Huskers here on this Saturday of college football?
Guys, right now I'm watching Nebraska's offensive line on the dry erase board, actually drawing for assistant line coach Garrison. And Idaho State has to choose their poison. They're not big enough to want to get into guys up front, so they're trying to play gaps. But what you allow Nebraska to do, and we saw it earlier with both Jackson and Pensick out in front pulling, is you allow Nebraska in that G-scheme game to get going. They are athletic up front, and they want to pull those guys. You got to choose your poison if you're Idaho State.
Well, Damon, we had a flag on the play, pass play from Idaho State.
15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
That's our referee, Dave Whitvote. Andrew Green will be flagged for the infraction.
Just didn't find the ball at the end. He has great coverage, but at the end you go through the hands at the same time looking back for the football. I think that's a good call.
Roderick Rumble was the intended receiver, and Idaho State has its first down of the football game. They try to run it there with Xavier Finney, and he goes nowhere. Let's take a look at today's Auto Owners Insurance starting defense for Nebraska. And up front, Baker Steinkühler, the senior, 6'6", 290, from right here in Lincoln, Nebraska. The linebackers, Will Compton is the leading tackler on this team with 31 for the season and 3 for loss. In the defensive backfield, P.J. Smith, the 6'2" senior from River Ridge, Louisiana. Call it 2nd and 11 with a loss of 1 on the first down for the Bengals of Idaho State out of the Big Sky Conference. Yost pressured, gets away, running for the sideline and run down by Baker Steinkühler. That's going to be another loss on the play as he ran down Kevin Yost.
And Idaho State's MO offensively is to get rid of the ball quickly, but it shows you what Nebraska is doing in the secondary is really confusing not only Kevin Yost, but that receiving core that has so many catches on the year, and actually a year ago, but Nebraska's doing a great job up front because the secondary is covering so well.
So here is 3rd and 12 for the Bengals.
Not a good position to be in if you're Kevin Yost.
No, 53% of the season conversion rate on 3rd down, but this one's going to be a tough one as Yost has to scramble, now step up and go down. Eric Martin brought him down. Another loss of a yard on the play, and a punting situation for the Bengals. Run for your life, Kelly.
Absolutely, and once again, you chalk that up to coverage. That's a sack, a coverage sack at the back end. 6 defensive backs, actually 7 maybe on that play. You have 4 rushers up front. Great coverage on the back end, and Kevin Yost has seen more pressure than he's seen in a long, long time. Typically, he's kind of a catch-and-release receiver, but Nebraska's getting up in the grill of these receivers and making them try to throw in tight windows, and there just isn't anything there.
A fake on the punt. The ball comes loose and rolls out of bounds at the 35. The snap was to Tanner Davis, who tried to run it around the end. He got run down. Ball went out of bounds. It's back to the Huskers.
We talked about this. Idaho State likes to use their punt team sometimes as just another offensive play, but not a real good time to do it. That avalanche we talked about at the open is starting to rumble at the top of the mountain, and Coach Kramer maybe should have saved that for some time a little bit later.
And that was Courtney Osborne who knocked that football away, and it will be spotted at the 35-yard line as the folks enjoying the Saturday afternoon in Lincoln. Just a little crisp chill in the air. College football weather. Here is Martinez going deep to the end zone and complete. Quincy Enunwa, 35 yards and a Husker TD.
The quick change offense, Nebraska play action pass in the secondary. If the middle is open, Martinez goes to the post with the number right there. No safety in deep middle. Very easy read. Great throw, great route. Touchdown Nebraska once again. Man, are they making it look easy.
8th touchdown pass of the season for Martinez. Make it 21-0 Nebraska Cornhuskers. Those 8 TD passes, second most in the Big Ten. This one to Quincy Enunwa for 6. Bo Pelini's team has a 21-0 lead here in the first quarter. That'll lift the spirits and help that health situation for Coach Pelini. He told us he was feeling great. Was a little worried about the situation playing this team from the football championship subdivision, but Damon, so far it has been all Nebraska.
Yeah, it has, you know, and you guys are and rightly so, talking about the great play in the secondary. You know, in the offseason, Coach Pelini hired Coach Joseph, and at that time, and it's turning out to be fruition, we knew that that was going to be a really good hire. They go 6 or 7 deep in that secondary. They got a ton of corners that can play, and guys, right now they are flourishing, allowing that D-line to get turned loose.
Now there is a flag on the return.
Now this is going to be holding Idaho State. They're once again going to be pinned deep. Not a good way to get your offense untracked if you're Idaho State here today.
Holding. Return team, number 45. 10-yard penalty, first down.
So let's take a... Let's go to Chicago for a game break.
Well, hey, Tom, it's Mike Hall here, and let's check in on Northwestern, one of 3 games on BTN at the moment. This is Tyrus Jones into the end zone. They are up 14-0 on South Dakota.
And, Mike, that Nebraska's defense right now is actually getting polished up for teams like Northwestern down the road in Big Ten Conference play. It's not about this game today necessarily for Nebraska's defense. It's about polishing for the future in the Big Ten Conference.
They start that schedule against Wisconsin next week right here in Lincoln after losing to Wisconsin last season. Lake Austin was the intended receiver. Ciante Evans on the coverage on the pass from Yost.
Bo Pelini was somewhat frustrated with, he doesn't think his defense really in the first 3 games and even here today is really getting a good look from an offense that's similar to what they're going to see starting next week. And I think that's somewhat of a concern. They try to make up in practice time in terms of what they want to see, but they don't get it in game speed yet on the year.
2nd and 10 for the Bengals. Pass is complete. Cam Richmond just shy of the 20-yard line for Richmond.
This is the type of rhythm that Idaho State is known for. Yost gets this ball out really quickly to Richmond, who just finds a zone, and those 4, sometimes 5 wide receivers just go down into zones, run away from man-to-man, and then Yost theoretically gets rid of the ball really, really quickly.
Here is 3rd and 1 for Idaho State, 0 for 3 on 3rd down this afternoon. Yost will roll that pocket and fire. Has his man, that is Roderick Rumble. So that'll be a 1st down, 5 yards on the play. Sean Fisher forced him out. Rumble with the grab, number 13.
Yost just rolling to his right to some extent, and Rumble is just going to run to the flat. Number 42, Sean Fisher, you can see chasing right there, just needed to continue to believe in what he was seeing and expand that zone, and he would have been right in the throwing lane.
This Idaho State team coming off a victory 2 weeks ago against Black Hill State of South Dakota from Division II. That pass is incomplete. Luke Austin was the intended receiver. Roderick Rumble did not play in the first 2 games of this season. The senior from Oak Harbor, Washington, was not a target for Kevin Yost in the first 2 games. Has been a factor a little bit here, but last year,
yeah,
look at the numbers.
Amazing.
Now, what they wanted, though, according to the coaching staff, was more touchdowns in relation to how many receptions he did have during the course of the season. Those 112 receptions, a conference and school record for Rumble. This pass is complete to Richmond. Taken down near the 31-yard line. Mohamed Cisse, number 4 for the Huskers, making the play.
What Nebraska wants to do defensively, defensive coordinator John Papuchis said that he wants to play man-to-man style defense. It's not our first rodeo either, he said. He wants to get into the face of these receivers and make Yost throw into really tight windows instead of those voids in zones. That's what you're seeing here today so far.
So here is 3rd and short. Trying to limit that yardage after the catches by these receivers. Yost just did get it away, but it is incomplete. He was looking for Richmond again. He also went down after releasing the pass.
Continued pressure on Yost because there's very good coverage in the secondary, and Nebraska isn't being bashful defensively. They're bringing extra guys because Nebraska already believes in the secondary they can cover Idaho State's wide receivers man-to-man. They've been successful thus far.
Reyes will punt for Idaho State. Amir Abdullah, the sophomore from Homewood, Alabama, waits for the rugby-style punt, bouncing at the 40 and taking a Bengal roll close to the 32-yard line. So we'll take a timeout from Lincoln, Nebraska. It is the Huskers up 21-zip. We pick up the action with Kenny Bell on the run, and Bell is going the distance. That is a 68-yard touchdown. So Kenny Bell on the run, 80 yards.
And Kenny Bell is becoming that, and maybe his full-blown big play wide receiver. Any way he touches the football, he's now one of those target guys that you start to build touches within the game plan for, and Tim Beck did it on that play.
So it's number 80, Kenny Bell, going 68 yards. And before you can turn around and try to establish yourself defensively if you're Idaho State, Nebraska is back in the end zone with 3:37 to go.
There are certain guys on the field that you design touches for, and Tim Beck told us this yesterday, the offensive coordinator for Nebraska, is there are guys that you have certain plays for And if you need him to get him the ball, you just dial him up. You don't let the defense dictate how many times your big play guys touch the football.
And Damon, you got to love that little wrinkle with Kenny Bell running the football.
Yeah, that's nice. I tell you, and Coach Beck, he hit the nail on the head. He says, listen, it's easy for me to call plays when I have as many tools in my toy box as I do. I look and see who needs a touch. And guys, I got to tell you, he hasn't been quite introduced to the nation yet, but Kenny Bell is as good as anybody in the Big Ten Conference, and he is truly big time.
And a big-bodied guy, Damon, you have to love that. And over 20 yards per catch, and we can see right there he can take the ball and run it as well. Pretty amazing.
Kelly, how nice is it when you're an offensive coordinator and you can look at your play sheet and say, you know what, who needs a touch? I can go to Kyler Reed, I can go to Kenny Bell. Oh, by the way, I've got the best running back in the Big Ten, arguably, in Rex Burkhead, and I have as an explosive a quarterback as there is in the conference in Taylor Martinez. It's got to be pretty nice.
Yeah, and Damon, you know this, going into Big Ten Conference next week, Nebraska's offense has proven that they're explosive and they can score points as long as they stay out of their own way. If they take care of the football, don't penalize themselves, the Big Ten Conference is going to have trouble with this offense.
Kelly, you're exactly right, especially as this defense starts to hit its stride.
Thank you, Damon. 3.5 minutes to go here in the first quarter, and it's been a long one with the Idaho State Bengals out of the football championship subdivision, and their head coach Mike Kramer.
He's brought
a new attitude,
yeah.
No question about it, to Bengal football, but they have just run into a superior Big Ten team today so far in the first quarter.
And Idaho State hasn't really won in Pocatello for a long while with any consistency. That's Mike Kramer's job, is to try to build a program back to prominence in that Big Sky Conference.
Here is Yost. Intercepted. Ciante Evans to the end zone. Another Husker TD. The pick by Evans, going 29 yards for the score.
Nebraska's played a lot of man-to-man, and this time they feigned man-to-man, and they were in a zone, and you can see Ciante Evans jumps that route, picks the ball off, gets it into the end zone. And Mike Kramer's biggest fear today was not to fracture if the Avalanche started to move downhill, called Nebraska. Well, guess what? That Avalanche is really rolling at this point in time. Wow.
35-0 with 2:52 to go in the first quarter. Evans breathing heavy after going 29 yards to the end zone.
Nebraska's defense did a good job of changing the picture of the quarterback right at the end. You're thinking man-to-man, I can throw this in there, and it's actually a zone, and Ciante Evans breaks out of that zone and picks the ball off like a wide receiver.
So Yost is on the phone to try to find an answer,
and
it's pretty far away at this point.
Yeah, there are no answers.
I mean, Kelly, you certainly give credit to teams that try to do this out of the different divisions, but right now it is an uphill struggle.
Yeah, the positive for Idaho State coming out of this game is they start conference play themselves next week in the Big Sky Conference. The game is going to slow down dramatically for the Bengals next week versus what they're experiencing right here in this environment.
So you can see on the left that Idaho State is simply stunned, and the Nebraska Cornhusker sideline simply buzzing with a 35-0 lead as that one will go through the end zone. And this season in college football, the free balls in the end zone will come out to the 25-yard line.
Bo Pelini talked to us yesterday. The goal for his group today were really be buttoned up in the execution of the fine details of playing, because they're looking at the Big Ten next week. They're looking at Wisconsin being here 7 days from today, and they want to win conference championships and compete for national championships. You do that by doing the little things right. They're doing a lot of things right today.
1st and 10 from the 25 for Idaho State. Pass pass incomplete at the feet of Roderick Rumble. Damon Benning.
I tell you what, it's interesting. It's like all the foreshadowing that went on, and watch it come to fruition today. The guy that he highlighted, that he said is playing at as high a level as anybody on his defense, was number 17, Ciante Evans. He said he's arguably had as good a spring as he's ever seen any player have, and he's responded today with the pick 6.
Yeah, that nickel defense that Nebraska rolls out there now, very buttoned up on the back end in coverage with guys like Ciante Evans, and then they go that peso or dime package, and Corey Cooper, number 6, is playing at a pretty high level as well.
Yeah, you know, the interesting thing too, Kelly, is as Idaho State doesn't force Nebraska to play honest, you know, the parts where, you know, Coach Pelini wants to see worked on is that weak side run game and how those guys fit on the backside at that weak side nickel, which is probably the toughest position to play in this defense.
Yeah.
And without Idaho State's commitment to the run game, Nebraska, and Coach Papuch has hinted at this, could tee it up quite a bit. And right now, all hands on deck.
Yeah, brother, you're not going to see that run game today.
So just 24 yards so far for Kevin Yost.
Yeah, Mike Kramer said they don't want to fracture today. When the avalanche starts to rumble, I think that fracture is broken wide open.
3rd and 10 and whistles before the snap. Kevin Yost averages over 400 yards passing per game. And now this penalty goes against Kevin Yost and the Idaho State Bengals. So it's just getting worse now, Damon Benning, for this Bengal team, trying to just get some sort of traction here in the first quarter.
It is, and as you watch Nebraska's secondary talk and communicate and relay and bounce calls to one another, that's never a good sign for the offense. You get the sense that they're in your playbook and they're in a nice little rhythm.
Yost into the flat. That's complete. Xavier Finney.
Yeah, Damon, I don't know if Nebraska's in their playbook, but Nebraska's secondary is certainly in their hip pocket. But my question is, how does Nebraska get better today? That's what Bo Pelini is going to be focusing on. How do they get better here today?
Well, I think you're seeing it with what he's doing up front. He's used a ton of guys. You've seen Kevin Williams, Steinkuhler, Meredith. These guys slide down the line. Sometimes they're in a 3 technique, sometimes they're playing a 5. He's getting good looks with his front 4 because I think that's what he's going to have to hang his hat on as the season progresses. He knows what he can do next week. I think when he's going to see some 2 tight or 21 personnel, he can play his base packages. It's when teams go to spread him out, who plays well with who, that he's figuring out today.
So Nebraska started the game with a missed field goal from 51 yards by Maher, and then it's touchdown, 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 touchdown.
Those touchdowns collectively took how many minutes? I mean,
they were quick scoring strikes, no question. Ron Kellogg III is the new quarterback. Wants to oil up that arm right away. And the pass complete to Janovich. And Damon Benning, we were looking for Janovich to get some action today, and sure enough, there he is in the first quarter.
Yeah, all biased aside, he's a favorite. I thought he was a steal when he decided to walk on at Nebraska. Tough kid, and he's playing early.
Did you see the look in Tim Beck's eye yesterday in our meeting when he said, hey, keep an eye on 35. He's going to get some time today.
How often do you hear a coach say, I wanted to redshirt him, but he's too good?
Yeah, you gotta love to hear that.
Burkhead, a punishing run inside the 45, took Tanner Davis with him to the synthetic turf.
Yeah, Burkhead is looking pretty darn good today. What do you think of that left knee, Damon, based on what you've seen this afternoon?
Well, he's got a little bit of hitch in his giddy up, but I can tell you what you're going to see from Nebraska right now is that old school vintage toss game.
And let the clock run.
Not a whole lot there on first down for Burkhead. Leki Fuapau and Mitch Beckstead defensively for Idaho State.
Yeah, Fuapau is that leader on the defensive side for Idaho State. Has really made a ton of improvement from last season when he didn't even know if he was going to be on the field or not, but he's definitely a difference maker on the defensive line. He will have a nice year in the Big Sky Conference.
2nd and 10 for Nebraska. Rex Burkhead already has a touchdown run of 61 yards in the game. It's just his 5th carry of the season. Also has a 57-yard TD. this season as well, but that came against Southern Miss in the first game of the season in which he was injured.
One of the little things up front is Tim Beck talked about the offensive line needing to get better in a couple of areas. They're doing a really good job, actually, Damon, in terms of their overall assignment. Their positioning is better overall, but targeting, I think, is the key right now and emphasis for Nebraska's offensive line.
Yeah, that's an outstanding point, and that was the buzzword for him yesterday. He wanted to do a better job of locating guys, playing with better hand placement.
And that is the end of the first quarter.
So that'll do it for the first quarter, and it's all Big Red. 35-0, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. There's Burkhead going 61 yards for his TD run. Abdullah also getting to the end zone. End of the first, 35-0. Outside of the stadium, destiny, not a matter of chance, a matter of choice. And the statues outside of the football offices, Coach Tom Osborne and Brooke Behringer, memorializing the former quarterback here at Nebraska. And Tom Osborne, 3 national championships, an interception thrown here inside the 30-yard line. So that was Kellogg who threw the interception to Donovan Henley.
Ron Kellogg III trying to throw this slant underneath to Allen, and actually I think Allen's route, he kind of leaked upfield and allowed that defensive back to come underneath that. I don't think it was as much the throw as it was, I think the route was a little bit off. And that's a quarterback obviously saying that, Tom, but that was, I think that route kind of drifted upfield a little bit and gave that defensive back a good angle to come underneath.
It's about the first good thing to happen for Idaho State in the football game. Good thing for Nebraska is they've got the backup quarterback in there to start the second quarter. Incomplete to Xavier Finney. Now, Damon, the quarterback was never wrong in your day, was he?
No, the 2 guys that I played with in Frazier and Frost, pretty strong personalities. We didn't go against the trend.
Wise of you, Damon, wise of you.
Spoken like a true quarterback, Mr. Stauffer.
I can audible right out of that play where I was going to hand it to you before.
I tell you what, speaking of quarterbacks, Idaho State, they've showed some toughness. I mean, they're literally under siege with Nebraska's front 4, and he's done a good job of hanging in there.
Mohamed Cisse is the injured Nebraska player being helped off by the training staff.
Well, Tom Cisse was another guy. He got his debut last week and is figured to take on a prominent role as they start conference play in that secondary that has played so well here this afternoon.
2nd and 10 for the Bengals. Pass to Roderick Rumble, and he's got it at the 36-yard line.
Take a look and see if we can. Oh, you can see right there just the misstep by Cisse, and then he grabs his either hamstring or hip on that right side. But he's figured in that secondary going forward, they can't afford to lose guys in games like this.
3rd and 3. Yost gets away, passes it off, incomplete. Looking for Richmond, and he got popped. There is a flag on the play. Stanley Jean-Baptiste delivered the blow, but again there is a flag as Richmond is the intended receiver.
Jean-Baptiste is going to get called for targeting above the shoulders. And I think it's going to be a good call. I think he led with his helmet.
Defense number 16, 15-yard penalty. Automatic first down.
Jean-Baptiste used to be a receiver here in Nebraska. And right there at the end, I don't know about that. It looked like actually it was more shoulder and left hand.
Yeah, that's one of those deals that looked a lot worse than it really was, and the fans letting them know about it.
That crown of the helmet by Jean-Baptiste may have leaked up into the chin of the receiver right there in Richmond. It's all about player safety today in this college football game, that's for sure.
From the 49 of Nebraska, there's the ball on the turf, and it's scooped up Will Compton rolls out of bounds near the 40. Xavier Finney coughed it up, and Compton covered it for Nebraska.
This is another area for Nebraska's defenses. Get takeaways and give it back to that explosive offense we have, and Compton doing a very good job of simply just being in the right place at the right time. But Bo Pelini wants that defense taking that football away.
And it was the quarterback Yost who had to make the tackle on Compton. Taylor Martinez has re-entered the game for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who will operate 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line of Idaho State. Burkhead to the 30, trying to work behind that block and rumbling down inside the 20-yard line. James Berggren making the tackle on Burkhead, who goes 21 yards, and he looks good against the Bengals.
Damon called this earlier, vintage Nebraska football. Get in the I formation, toss it to the I back, and let the fullback lead and an offensive lineman pull and kick out, and that's very good stuff. And that's what Nebraska's offensive line needs to improve at, is targeting the defense as they're on the move like they were on that play.
And the great stiff arm to turn aside Cameron Gupton as well. And close to the 11. Burkhead again. Trevor Spence, number 40 in white, making the tackle for Idaho State.
Burkhead getting a little more work than I would have anticipated here into the second quarter, but it's for this reason. Let's test that knee a little bit. A little shimmy, a little shake. Number 22 looks pretty spry. Those fresh legs look good.
So from the 12, Martinez hangs onto it, escapes one man, and it takes 2 and 3 Bengals to bring him down. Tanner Davis leading the way. You're talking about Burkhead there. He's got 6 carries and 110 yards in the TD. This time, Martinez pulled it back, made that decision to keep it, Kelly.
Yeah, the zone read, and it was a very good read. Contained, the defensive end chased Burkhead on that play, and Martinez rightly pulled the ball. It wasn't very well blocked at the point of attack where Martinez is concerned, but the right decision nonetheless.
1st and goal for the Huskers with a 35-0 lead. Martinez complete down to the 2. Jamal Turner, 6 yards on that play.
Jamal Turner is another one of those playmakers that Tim Beck has at his beck and call, throwing quickly to the flat. Very good read, good ball placement. Get it to your guy where he can do something with it.
Burkhead to the end zone, and he's in for his 2nd score of the game and 3rd of the season for Rex Burkhead.
It can't get much easier than this. A simple toss out of the one-back set, very well blocked out on the edge by Kenny Bell. Nebraska's receivers have to be able to block in this offense, and you saw it right there. The wide receiver Bell setting the edge out wide in the end zone.
The extra point up and good. Burkhead now with 8 carries, 119 yards, and now those 2 touchdown scores, Kelly.
Coming right into your living room right there, but number 22 having a big afternoon. He may be done.
This is Mike Hall in Chicago, reminding you you're watching one of 3 games that are available on BTN right now. You can see any of the other 2 on either our Overflow channels or on BTN to go. Perhaps you don't like the fact that it's a blowout? Well, go to East Lansing, where it's 3-0. The Spartans had no TDs last week, only a field goal thus far this week against Eastern Michigan. Or in Evanston, Northwestern has 3 rushing touchdowns to give them a 21-0 lead against South Dakota. For now, let's head back to Lincoln with Tom Kelly.
Thank you, Mike. Nebraska up 42-0. Rex Burkhead has a couple of touchdowns. He's over the 100-yard mark for the 12th time in his career. It is all Nebraska here in the first half, and that's probably the understatement of the day right there. Again, you know, I give Idaho State a lot of credit coming into this environment, but it's tough for anybody to win here, never mind a team from the football championship subdivision in the Big Sky Conference. And this kickoff will bounce into the end zone and come back out to the 25. Let's go down to Damon with a very special guest.
Here with head Nebraska basketball coach Tim Miles. Coach, you got the big personality. You got the warm fan base. Talk about the mesh right out of the gates.
Well, they've been great. It's been amazing. My Twitter followers are through the roof. But, you know, Nebraska's got such a passion for athletics. You look across the board, whether it be football, volleyball, whatever it might be. We're just going to make it happen in men's basketball. It's our turn, I think.
We've clamored for kind of a unique person that could help recruit to this area. He has some built-in disadvantages, but you obviously have some great advantages. Number one being your new facility. Talk a little bit about the new indoor center.
Well, when you talk of disadvantages, we're a remote place. But the good part about that is we're the only show in the state. We're the only show in the area. And when you come and see what we've got to offer in Nebraska, our facilities are world class. There's probably not 3 or 4 in the whole country like them.
I won't talk much about a gal, but I will say that early on in your recruiting process, you've gone all over the map. You've crossed continents. You go coast to coast. Talk a little bit about your recruiting philosophy and how you're trying to bring big-time basketball to the conference in the state of Nebraska.
Well, first of all, we're trying to attract all the talent we can. I can only coach so good, so I know what we need. And when I look at Nebraska and our strengths, there's so many of them here. We're getting as many people as we can on campus, and we'll go anywhere to do it. We've already proven that, I think. My assistant said to me the other day, how many miles do you think you put on? And we started counting the trips, and I got lost in May. So we still got a long way to go.
You're too smooth for the camera, so I'll trip you up here, I hope. Number 22 or number 8 when it comes to the gridiron?
Rex Burkhardt, every time, every day, baby, number 22.
He's caved to the pressure, guys. Coach, I appreciate it. Best wishes to you.
Thanks.
Guys, he's a big personality. He'll do just fine here in the state of Nebraska.
Thank you, Damon. He and everybody else in this stadium witnessing Rex Burkhead getting back into the fold for Bo Pelini and the Nebraska Cornhuskers as Idaho State has taken the timeout. Remember, Burkhead injured in the first game of the season against Southern Miss. He's come on strong today and scored a couple of touchdowns.
And Tom, we also saw number 4 for Nebraska's defense and Mohamed Cisse coming back in that last drive as well. That does not look pretty. You can see right there Idaho State having 7 possessions and doing literally nothing with it. Pressure, great coverage on the back end for Nebraska. Kevin Yost has absolutely been under siege, as Damon has said.
I'm no mathematician, Kelly, but when you see the minus sign in front of the numbers, you got trouble.
That's not good, is it?
That's what Idaho State has run into. Here, 3rd down, they've only converted 1 of 6. Yost trying to get to the marker. He reached out for it, but did also go near the sideline. Kevin Williams dragged him down. So that might be just a little bit short.
And Kevin Yost in this pass-happy offense, Mike Kramer made a point of talking about trusting his teammates. He doesn't see anything down the field. There wasn't a lot of pressure in the pocket. That was actually the safest place to be. Outside the pocket, Nebraska's defensive line run like a lot of linebackers in the Big Sky Conference.
So another punt from Reyes. The Bengals have not crossed midfield in the game, and they have to punt again. Bounces out of bounds near the 40-yard line of Nebraska. They will officially spot it at the 41, a 25-yard punt. We'll take a timeout from Lincoln. Huskers way in front here in the second quarter, and the scoring got started at the 11:41 mark. Rex Burkhead going 61 yards behind his blockers and a nice stiff arm as well for his second TD run of the season. Then Abdullah takes it in as well, Kelly, for sure.
Abdullah filled in nicely when Burkhead was hurt and going deep to a none on that play. Very good throw by Martinez, and then Seontae Evans does a nice job of breaking on the ball, picking it off. All Nebraska here today.
This is Abdullah. Regained his footing and goes out of bounds on the Bengals side of the 50 for 10 yards. Anthony Boyles on the tackle for Idaho State.
Now, Tom, I would be really surprised if we see Burkhead anymore today. I think Abdullah certainly filled in more than just well. I think he's option 1B in Nebraska's offense now in the backfield.
Abdullah had a sensational game against UCLA with 119 yards and a couple of touchdown runs. And last week, 167 yards for a career high and 2 more TD runs.
Yeah, and Tom, the big plays, the splash plays, he leads the Big Ten Conference with 15 plays of plus 10 yards or more. That's the dynamic that he brings to this Nebraska offense.
And Damon, you're getting the field level view at number 8 now, who's taking over most of the running here with Burkhead out of the game.
It's called being in your kitchen. He's a real shifty guy. He moves great in short spaces. I think he could shake free in a phone booth, and he knows it. He doesn't need much room to wiggle free.
Pass complete to Jake Long from Martinez.
See, Burkhead is a very good all-around versatile back, but not necessarily the splash guy that Abdullah is. And you see right there the maintenance pass outside to Jake Long, the little brother Jake Long, the little brother of Spencer Long. But I think it's the guys up front that right now I would say are the emphasis for this offense going forward. If Nebraska's offensive line gets back to where they once were, this is going to be a very difficult matchup in the Big Ten Conference.
Well, Burkhead with his 2 touchdown runs today. Also had one at the beginning of the season for his career. He now has 25 touchdown runs. It's been an amazing career for Rex Burkhead. Up to 28 career rushing touchdowns for him. It's Martinez who has 23 career rushing touchdowns. And they go through the air to Ben Cotton. Ben Cotton, Nebraska football, certainly a family affair for him. His father, Barney, is the offensive line coach and played here at Nebraska. Interesting formation at the bottom of your screen, pointed out by the quarterback, Kelly Stauffer. And here it is. Flag comes out on the play, though, as the ball goes down to the 20. It was Tyler Evans, 88, but again, a flag came out at the 33.
The left guard, Cole Pensick, was actually flanked out wide, and he might be the guy that's going to get flagged for holding on that particular play. Offensive linemen aren't used to being outside the numbers.
62, 10-yard penalty. Repeat, second down.
So again, we mentioned in number 81, Ben Cotton. It is a family affair, Nebraska football. From left to right, you've got Ben, Jake, Barney, and Sam. Jake is a sophomore offensive lineman. Sam, a freshman tight end. And Christine, the head of the Cotton Club. All 5 of them involved in Nebraska football. And Barney, the offensive line coach and a former Husker himself.
How about the grocery bill in that house?
Oh, Christine gets all the credit there, I'm sure. The 3 Cotton brothers all wearing the scarlet and cream. It was 2nd and 15. Martinez, he will be sacked at midfield. It's Demetrius Allen, Austin Graves also there, and the first sack of the game for Idaho State.
And Abdullah actually didn't do a very good job of his pass protection. Stepped too far down inside, didn't get out on the edge blocker. Right there, you can see number 8, Abdullah. He has 99 on the outside in Graves, and Martinez subsequently had to step up inside, and that's when he went down. And those are the little details that Nebraska has to be buttoned up on starting next week in conference play.
Wisconsin, the opponent. Next Saturday, it's a night game here in Lincoln. Martinez running away from the pressure from Rouser. Now he gets dropped again at the 45. Taking no chances as Phil Pleasant came up to bring him down.
And another miscommunication in the backfield, and I don't know if Damon picked up on this, but you can see the back goes to the opposite side of the play fake. You have to think that the quarterback, the veteran 3-year starter, is right in that play, and the young running back Abdullah was wrong. The play fake was on the wrong side.
Maher with the punt to John Davidson. He's at the 14-yard line. To the 22 for Davidson. 48-yard punt, 8 on the return, 40 yards on the punt. Damian Stafford, special teams tackle for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. 6:12 to go here in the second quarter. 42-0. Nebraska on top. Well, Idaho State did have some success against Nebraska, but it was a long time ago. It was Tom Osborne, Hastings College.
Nice. Not
the Cornhuskers, but Hastings College for the former coach here in Lincoln. Flag came out on the play. Xavier Finney stumbled down. Will Compton cut him down, but again a flag.
Decline. Holding. Offense number 56. The penalty is declined. Second down.
How about that picture of Coach Osborne?
Yeah, I don't know about that form right there. I think that's just for photos only. Yeah. I don't think that was in game.
Not how they taught it at Hastings College. The field is dedicated to Coach Osborne. Hastings west of here by about an hour. As the crow flies, I'm being told. Step up by Yost. Deep pass. Incomplete, but the flags are out. In fact, there's two of them. Luke Austin was the intended receiver, and you had Ciante Evans back there, number 17.
And I don't know if I agree with this as pass interference. Ciante Evans was looking back for the football over his head.
Pass interference, defense number 17. 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And typically, if a defensive back is looking back for the football, the contact that ensues is simply just incidental. It's hard to tell on that particular angle, but I think at the end of the day, Ciante Evans really looked back and did what he was supposed to do.
1st and 10, pass over the middle. Derek Graves has it at the 40. Andrew Green on the stop for Nebraska. So the pass interference penalty keeps it going for Idaho State. There is a shaken up Nebraska player. It is P.J. Smith, number 13. So the training staff hustles out to attend to P.J. Smith, the senior from River Ridge, Louisiana.
And this is exactly what Bo Pelini does not want to see this afternoon. He's been spending really the first 3 weeks of this season working on the chemistry and makeup of his team defensively. And he likes what he sees on the back end, still working with things up front. They play a lot of nickel, they play a lot of dime, a lot of 5-6 defensive backs in the game. And he likes how his guys are coming together with Wisconsin on the horizon. And you can't afford to have guys like P.J. Smith go down with injury here today.
Last season for Bo Pelini's team, a loss at Wisconsin, 48-17. That will open up the Big Ten schedule. Nighttime game here in Lincoln for Bo Pelini in his 5th year. He's 25-6 here at historic Memorial Stadium, which opened up in the early 20s. Yost felt the pressure coming right up the middle, got it away up towards the 48 to Luke Austin. So Kevin Yost trying to hold and stand his ground and move his team. Again, they have not crossed the 50. They're very close now as the chains are moving.
And what Kevin Yost is doing a better job of, Tom, is, and his receivers, quite frankly, against that man-to-man defense that Nebraska has been doing on the back end, they're just getting the ball into tight places, which they weren't early in this football game.
First game of the season for Idaho State was a loss against Air Force, where Yost threw for 355 yards, and that one he wants to uncork it again. Has his man at the 40, and that is Rumble. Inside the 30, Andrew Green tackled him. So Damon Benning, all of a sudden, Idaho State starting to move that football. First time across midfield.
Yeah, and Coach Kramer talked about this on Wednesday. You see Nebraska's D-line now starting to get cut. I mean, literally biting at the ankles of Nebraska's front and giving the quarterback a little bit cleaner passing windows.
1st and 10 from the 28 for Idaho State with a 4-receiver set. Incomplete. Derek Graves, intended receiver.
The curl route to play before by Rumble on coverage by Andrew Green, and Nebraska was actually bringing pressure off of the other side, man-to-man on the back end, and Rumble caught 112 balls last year, a conference record in the Big Sky, so he obviously knows how to catch it, and he also runs pretty good routes.
4:16 to go in the second quarter. Looks like an interception for Nebraska, and it is. Josh Mitchell has it.
We were just talking about the route running by Rumble, and he left his quarterback out to dry here. As Rumble was coming outside, his quarterback threw to Josh Mitchell for the INT inside.
Welcome back to Lincoln. We are talking about historic Memorial Stadium, the groundbreaking and completion of the stadium in the fall of 1922. Named Memorial Stadium to honor the Nebraskans who served in the Civil and Spanish-American Wars and the 751 Nebraskans who died in World War I. That's the first night game in 2006 with permanent lights, and the East Stadium expansion project is ongoing here at Memorial Stadium. It will add some 6,000 seats and some pretty good views for some of the construction workers overseeing the stadium expansion there. Just enjoying football today, no work going on. Right in the front row, but very far from the playing surface here at Memorial Stadium. It is quite a setting for college football. 43 straight, Kelly, winning home seasons for the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
And I don't think that 6,000 in new seating is going to jeopardize the sellout record here at Nebraska. I think they will sell that out in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it'll push that capacity close to 87,000 as Abdullah turns the corner. He got hit pretty late, and yes, a couple of flags come out. It was Gupton who hit him late as Abdullah made his move around the corner.
Gupton coming up from his free safety position hits Abdullah out of bounds, but that's what Abdullah does is he takes away that edge from the defense.
Defense number 20. 15-yard penalty, first down.
That infusion of Abdullah's speed in this backfield gives Nebraska a new dimension, and right there, Gupton well out of bounds. That was an extremely late hit. Very dangerous, as a matter of fact. That's always dangerous when the runner of the football is slowing down and the defender is not. That's where guys get hurt.
1st and 10 from the 45. Martinez hangs onto it and flings it. Pass complete to Stephen Osborne. 7 yards for Osborne. Trevor Spence on the tackle for Idaho State. From Pocatello, Idaho, making the trip. That is the southeastern corner of the state of Idaho. Coming up at halftime, we've got the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report. Dave Refson and the gang. All the highlights and scores from Big Ten action. It's the Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report. 7 games on the BTN, the Big Ten Network today, as Amir Abdullah makes the carry. This one went in Nebraska's favor pretty early. A 61-yard TD run opened the scoring by Rex Burkhead. Abdullah has a touchdown run in Nunwa and Kenny Bell. Now, Bell's touchdown of 68 yards was later corrected to a pass, so that would be a pass play of 68 yards for Kenny Bell. Here is Martinez trying to squirm away near the 30-yard line. Eastern Michigan and Michigan State going at it in the second quarter. That on the BTN. 7-3, Eastern Michigan with the lead there out of the Mid-American Conference. And Northwestern and head coach Pat Fitzgerald with a 28-0 lead over South Dakota. That also in the second. Abdullah, 20, and ripped out of bounds at the 15. There is a flag on the play. It is back near the 31-yard line, so hold the phone.
Personal foul, chop block, offense number 77, 15-yard penalty, repeat second down.
Sixth penalty of the game against Nebraska. It's a personal foul against Choi.
And Choi is the one that got called for it. And basically, if a guy is engaged high and low at the same time, and it's very difficult to tell right there with 77, Choi going over the top, but the center inside, and Jackson had already gone low on the same defender, so that's a penalty. But it's very difficult to tell sometimes in that pile of humanity that's on the line of scrimmage.
Choi is a former walk-on in this program with a scholarship there this year and a senior from right here in Lincoln. Second and 24. Over the middle, finding a seam and completed to 32. Kyler Reed. It'll bring up 3rd and 11. The other guys who earned a scholarship from walk-on status. Brett Maher, who was the punter and kicker of the year in the Big Ten Conference last year. Jackson Blatchford and Spencer Long on the offensive line. Great dedication and determination by those Nebraska Cornhuskers. 55 seconds to go here in the second quarter. Martinez deep into double coverage. He's looking for Jamal Turner. Crowd wants some flags and they won't get them. Anthony Boyle step for step.
Jamal Turner was actually doubled inside and out as he goes deep on that seam route, and it was questionable whether that was pass interference or not. But the read was actually down the middle to Kyler Reed, was the guy that was singled. Martinez takes the doubled guy, doubled in, doubled out, and just as Jamal Turner had a play inside, he was knocked off his feet. But I think the read should have actually taken Martinez to Kyler Reed inside on the post.
Maher from 39 yards away, and he's got it. So Maher with the 49-yarder. He had missed one from 51 earlier, but he knocks that one through. And it's 45-0 with 41 seconds to go. Nebraska in front. Don't forget, halftime report. The Buffalo Wild Wings, Dave Repson and the gang. Scores and highlights from Big Ten action and around the country. Here it's all Nebraska and Bo Pelini. And we talked to Coach Pelini yesterday. He was certainly concerned about what Idaho State might be able to do with their exotic offenses and passing plans and everything that they might bring to the table. But the bottom line was he was concerned with his Nebraska team. Absolutely the final measure that he left us with in our meetings yesterday, Kelly.
Yeah, it was about executing, as we talked about at the top, the fine details of playing this game. Nebraska, I think, is really well positioned going into conference play. I think they're in their division is the team to beat just as well as anyone else. I think they're playing better offensively in their division probably than anybody. Maybe Northwestern is right up there, but answer some questions defensively, work out some details, and this team should be right in the hunt.
Short kick and the fair catch made just beyond the 30-yard line. 97 is Chris Edwards, who did not want to run with this football. And then he put it right down and ran off the field as fast as he could. No chance for a fumble.
Did he make a fair catch? I didn't see a fair catch signal, which is actually what those upbacks are taught to do. But he didn't kneel the ball down.
No.
And he put the ball down. Unless he fair caught it, that's a fumble. Nebraska could have picked that up and ran with it.
Officials gave him the fair catch. This is a rare running play from Xavier Finney.
When someone with a 90 number catches the football, you assume they want to fair catch it. So I think that's probably what the officials determined on that play.
So just 22 seconds to go. Day in the spotlight there for number 97. Not for his team, though. Trailing 45-0. And the clock down to 12 seconds. Yost will throw it. That was a short hop to Cam Richmond. A little bit of activity after the whistle. And wisely, Damian Stafford just put his hands in the air. And all you got to do is look at the scoreboard. 7 seconds to go and a 45-0 lead for Nebraska as the 25th ranked team in the country.
And I think those one hoppers that Yost is throwing outside in that quick passing game for Idaho State is just not confident what his guys are doing against man-to-man defense on the back end for Nebraska.
Finney to the 37. Will Compton on the tackle. That's going to do it. That's the final play of the first half. Bo Pelini takes his team to the locker room in dominating fashion, 45-0. The Buffalo Wild Wings halftime report coming up on the other side of this break. BTN Football is brought to you by Auto Owners Insurance. In this moment, who has your back? Protect what matters most with an Auto Owners Insurance independent agent. Find yours at AutoOwnersInsurance.com. Back on the beautiful campus here in Lincoln, Nebraska, as the Cornhuskers come out of the tunnel, getting ready for the second half and the start of the third quarter with a 45-0 lead. Now for today's Quicken Loans quarterback comparison, Yost against Martinez.
Yeah, Yost has really been under fire the entire day. 11 out of 23, just really didn't get anything going. Has been hung out to dry a couple of times by his wide receivers. The interceptions right there, kind of miscommunication. Conversely, Taylor Martinez actually looked really sharp. He threw to the open guys. He threw the ball he was supposed to throw, made the right reads, and actually 9 touchdowns to 1 interception on the year, playing extremely well in 2012.
And let's head down to the sidelines with Damon Benning.
Guys, in typical Coach Pelini fashion, we talk about staying the course and execution. He wants to see his guys continue to play hard, regardless of what the score says. And that's where it comes into play, that they're their own barometer. Doesn't matter what else is going on the field.
Yeah.
For Idaho State, Coach Kramer joked the other day about, hey, if we're down 49-0 at the half, this is what I'm going to tell my guys. You're still grading in 3 criteria. I'll tell you what, they're still getting graded in 3 different criteria.
Damon, how does Nebraska get better in this second half? I know most of the ones are going to be out, but obviously you have Wisconsin waiting on the horizon. How does Bo Pelini convince his team there's work to be done in half number 2?
Well, I tell you what, there's 2 areas. Number 1 is in the run game, being able to get to the second level and getting a hat on a hat. So some of those 4 and 5 and 6 yard gains can turn into 15, 16, 20 yard gains to execute on the second level. And then the other thing is communication and pass protection. There's been a few breakdowns, a few miscommunications up front between offensive line and running back. They'd like to shore that up a little bit.
Yeah, I saw Abdullah miss one in the first half in pass protection, and young running backs sometimes, as you well know, they struggle in pass protection. He's been pretty buttoned up, but there was at least one time, if you want to be nitpicky, that he didn't exactly know that he was supposed to slide wide and pick out the defensive end.
Yeah, and I do actually think that was miscommunication rather than lack of functionality, because he's been tremendous in pass pro up until this point. I think he just didn't get the signal.
So we're ready to start the second half from Lincoln, Nebraska and Memorial Stadium. This kick's going to sail into the end zone. Back out to the 25. I want to get the impressions from both Kelly and Damon. When you're involved in a game like this, what is the player perspective in a lopsided matchup as we're seeing this afternoon, guys? Kelly, let's start with you.
Well, if you're on the winning side, it's obviously fun initially, but then it becomes a matter of just wanting to get off the field intact. You don't want to get dinged up, and obviously if you're on the losing side of it, it's not fun at all.
Damon, you've been involved in some games like this. What's your perspective?
Well, I tell you what, it is about being your own barometer and staying the course. You got guys that are still competing for playing time, especially defensively and on the offensive lines. Guys want their snaps and live looks to show their coaches that they can play in crunch time.
Yeah, and I think it's a matter of executing on the details that Bo talked to us about yesterday. There are a lot of fine nuances that go into playing this game, and Nebraska is always trying to get better at those little details of playing football.
2nd and 11 for the Idaho State Bengals from Pocatello, Idaho in the Big Sky Conference. A wide open man over the middle. Luke Austin, number 82. Stumbles down after an 18-yard pickup on the pass play from Kevin Yost.
And this is something that we didn't see in the first half in that pass coverage, and Austin carries the seam up the middle and obviously not communicated well in the back end for Nebraska.
First and 10 from the 41. Yost trying to slip away, cannot get out of the clutches of Eric Martin. That's his second sack of the game. And they're going to lose 7 yards on that play all the way back to the 35.
Van Vliet, number 61, trying to pull and get it out in front of Martin. And what a move by Martin. A swim move out on the edge, and Martin finishes off at the quarterback.
250-pound senior from Moreno Valley, California. Now with 3 sacks on the season, 2 in our game this afternoon. 2nd and 18. Graves. Josh Mitchell made the tackle. 6 yards on the play, but no run after catch.
Yeah, that's very important when you're playing a team like this that spreads it out.
Tony, let me know what you want to do. I got one of our Hall of Fame guys,
but they also want to run with it
me.
after the catch, and a very good break on the throw and tackle by Josh Mitchell right there.
So here is 3rd and 12 from the 40-yard line for Idaho State, which could only muster 72 yards of offense in the first half. Yost behind his intended receiver over the middle. That was Cam Richmond. Deontay Evans was there. So it's a punting situation for the Idaho State Bengals.
Kevin Yost really hasn't seen coverage like this in a long while. I know they played FBS level Air Force early, and Air Force is more of a 2-shell team and play a lot of zone. Much easier to find holes in a zone than it is tight man-to-man coverage that they're seeing out of the Huskers here this afternoon.
Amir Abdullah, the deep man. We're seeing these rugby-style kicks from Reyes all game. Abdullah put on the brakes. There he goes. Gets away from another man, Reyes. Abdullah racing down the sideline. Cuts it back, and he's in. Sayonara, Amir Abdullah. 80-yard return.
Well, we talked about Abdullah splash plays as a running back, but how about a returner? He was actually trying to get to his wall on the right side of the field, but a dynamic player, once you have the ball in your hand, it's about use your legs and find green grass, and all those missed tackles are because Idaho State hasn't seen speed like that in a long while.
Extra point. 52-0. 80 yards, Amir Abdullah. Nebraska out in front of the Bengals from Idaho State on the Big Ten Network. The Nebraska Football Hall of Fame has 7 new inductees. That includes head coach Frank Solich, who now coaches at Ohio. Names like Amon Green and DeJuan Gross. There is the entire class being inducted last night, and they were also honored on the field today during the course of our game, Nebraska and Idaho State. So the Football Hall of Fame growing by 7 members here in Lincoln. Another kickoff by Maher goes all the way through the end zone as we go down to Damon Benning with a very special guest.
A very special guest indeed here with DeJuan Gross, the newest member of Nebraska's Football Hall of Fame. And D, I always used to say you were one of the more underappreciated great players of our time, but with this honor of distinction, maybe not so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a very humble experience. I mean, just coming back and all the stuff I worked for to help the teams out, and everything turned out good, and I'm actually proud to be a part of this fraternity.
DeJuan, smooth as Malanta. You never seem to be too high, too low. Talk a little bit about, for our fans out there, about a guy smaller in stature, not the rah-rah guy, not the mean guy, but how you made it all the way to the highest of the highest levels.
Well, I mean, it was just hard work, dedication. I mean, that's all I wanted to do. I mean, I made it to the next level of playing professional football, and coming back here and seeing this nice stadium is just tremendous.
We joked off air about the smells, the sounds, the things that are only familiar to Memorial Stadium. What does it mean to be back?
It means a lot to be back. I mean, we did a lot for this university, and then the university did a lot for us. So able to come back and support the team has been tremendous.
Guys, he's a testament to the pretty ones can play it well too.
Mr. Smooth with the great smile, DeJuan Gross. What an honor to be inducted into that Hall of Fame here in Nebraska. Again, 7 new members, including the former head coach Frank Solich. Got a lot of airtime there too, as well.
He really did. Handled it extremely well. Yeah.
He loved it. Congratulations to him and the rest of the class inducted last night.
Well, in the meantime, Kevin Yost is still trying to chop wood, and you see right there the rest of the class. Frank Solich at the top. I mean, I know that era really, really well in Nebraska history. Many people felt that he should have stayed on here as the coach for a long, long while, but things change, and he's doing very well where he is currently.
Green, also one of the inductees, second leading rusher in Nebraska history. Xavier Finney carried there. That'll be 3rd and 5.
Yeah, Amon went to be the first leading rusher in Packer history, which is pretty amazing. Some Super Bowl rings to go with it.
Director Doug Brown loves to hear that reference to the Green
He's
Bay
also
Packers.
a tremendous fan of Batman, by the way.
Here is Yost trying to work on 3rd, and Yost gets dropped. Jason Ankra, 2nd sack of the season for him. Number 9, Scarlet and Green. Loss of 10.
Anchor at the top, just a bull rush on 78, Bagley, and just says, I'm not going to get around the big boy. I'm just going to push him in the lap of the quarterback, and that's exactly what Jason Ankra does on that play. Kevin Yost, my friend, a long day, but you start Big Sky Conference next week. The game will slow down tremendously starting next Saturday.
Well, they got to play Sacramento State, which has already won at Colorado this season, 30-28. That'll be the first Big Sky Conference game. The ball on the turf, picked up by Reyes, and he gets hit at the 34. Justin Blatchford with the piece of that one to block it, and Reyes had to pick it up and try to do something. And we have a shaken up Husker.
Yeah, things can start going downhill in a hurry here at Memorial Stadium, and Reyes, there wasn't a whole lot he could do there. The rugby kicker really likes to get outside, and the last thing he wanted to do right there is pick up that football and try to run into traffic. Find some green grass, big boy, and get down. Wow.
He did get blasted at the end of the play. Give him credit for trying to make something out of it, but the block and then the hit. And Nebraska has great field position at the 34. Ron Kellogg III has come back in. That is Osborne being helped off the turf.
And Courtney Osborne, again, one of those safeties in the back end for Nebraska that they need to stay healthy.
Waylon Hurd steps out of bounds inside the 30 and down to the 27. Hurd is a sophomore from Youngstown, Ohio. So we've seen Burkhead, we've seen Abdullah, and now we get a look at Braylon Hurd.
And coming into this season, Nebraska knew that they not only had Burkhead and Abdullah, but they also felt Hurd and Cross both could provide a lot of depth in that backfield for Nebraska.
Hurd again to the 20, turning the corner, tiptoes the sideline and goes out of bounds. David Benning, another impressive run of 20 yards from Braylon Hurd.
I asked Coach Beck, you know, living in the state, I get to see these guys all the time, and I'm going to go out on a limb. Hurd might actually be the most gifted in terms of the natural runners. I asked Coach Beck, I said, what's been the difference that hasn't earned Hurd as much playing time? And he says, you know what? Missing spring hurt him, but guys, he said, Damon, I'm telling you, he's right there. And as that long run that he just ripped off shows, he's not far behind.
As a former running back, what do you mean by gifted? If we've looked at Burkhead and we've looked at Abdullah, but explain gifted to me from a running back's perspective.
He's probably the most natural of the bunch. He's the guy that needs the least to go right in order to have success. He's very instinctive. He can find small creases, and he's got that good home run hitting speed.
Yeah, you saw that getting to the edge there. There was nothing inside, and he instinctively bounced it out and almost got that thing into the end zone.
Yeah, he's got a couple of different gears. He's a very patient runner, but can accelerate. And it's like I try to tell the young kids that we coach, you know, patience is the hardest thing to acquire as a good running back, but he's got it, and he's got a lot of it.
How is he in his pass protection?
You know what? He's been pretty good. He's got that slight lower frame, but he's deceptively strong. And perhaps his best quality, guys, is he's got a little bit of stick-to-itness. He waited a year to qualify. He really wanted to come to Nebraska. He got after it with his studies, got eligible. He was a gift for the Huskers, and he hopes to make it pay off.
Because I know one of the objectives coming into this season was to keep Burkhead healthy, diminish the workload to some extent. I know he missed games, 2 games, so they kind of took care of itself, but they're also deep in the backfield. They can get carries to a lot of different guys.
Yeah, they've got a stable, and dare I say, it goes all the way back to the mid-90s.
Yeah, no question about that.
Monty Cross got the carry there for 3 yards.
There's another guy, true freshman.
Let me see.
Braylon Hurd, who we saw earlier on this drive, came into the game averaging almost 7 yards per carry with 16 carries. Now Kellogg throws to the goal line and in. Stephen Osborne reaching for the end zone. A 6-yard TD hookup.
Very well executed. Kellogg off the play action fake, booty to his right and finding Osborne. And you wonder why Nebraska's throwing in this situation. Kellogg's only a play away from having to take reps in live action, maybe in a conference situation. And so you want to run the offense when your backup quarterback gets in there. And there's a good example of it on that play.
So the first touchdown pass of the season for Ron Kellogg, the third, and the second TD grab of the season for Stephen Osborne. Kellogg on the throw, Osborne the catch and reach, and he's in for the score. The setting sun in Lincoln, Nebraska, as the shadows lengthen here at Memorial Stadium. What a scene for college football. Today's Polaris hardest working player is the punter for Idaho State, C.J. Reyes. Officially 6 punts and 1 lowering of the boom on number 17 right here as his punt got blocked, and he tried to make a play out of it, but got knocked to the turf. Yeah, C.J. Reyes, hardest working player.
He tried until Courtney Osborne came up and about peeled paint off his helmet. All was good until that impact.
Oh. Another kickoff into the end zone. There he is. A little bit of a smile. Take some things away from this experience, taking it up a level. They did play Air Force to start the season, but this is a whole nother issue.
In that play right there, the high snap on a punt in a fake punt against Air Force, Reyes actually had to catch one just like that, gathered himself and threw a strike for a first down on a fake punt. So that young man has been in that position before.
He goes 5'7", 190, the sophomore from California. Yost is going to heave this one into the front row.
Good decision. Sometimes as a quarterback, the hardest thing to do is to give up on a play, and sometimes the play is to throw it to the cheerleaders because nobody is open. Don't throw it into traffic. Right there, the clock is ticking, time is up. Get rid of the ball to someone other than the other guys.
Well, the road has not been kind to Idaho State. 33 straight road losses. They have not won on the road since 2006 at Northern Colorado. It does not appear today will snap that streak as they trail 59-0 here in the third quarter. And they put it on the ground with Aaron Pryor. Harvey Jackson, number 1 with the tackle. It's a 2-yard pickup. Call it 3rd and 8 with 8.5 to go in the third.
You know, if you're Idaho State and Coach Mike Kramer trying to build a program, then what you have to do in situations like this is gather your guys and just tell them the same thing that Bo Pelini is telling his guys. It's about working on the details of what we do. Forget the score, forget who we're playing, and try to execute the things that we have to do to compete in our conference.
Just 1 for 10 on 3rd down the entire afternoon. pass a little too high for Rumble. It did hit his fingertips, but he couldn't haul it in.
And that's the result of the pressure that Yost has been feeling in the pocket. Didn't quite set his feet. Actually had good protection up front from his offensive line and just threw a high hard one out to Rumble on the left side.
You have to give Coach Kramer credit because last season this team had some serious academic issues and some NCAA penalties. In his tenure as head coach, the team GPA has increased every semester. So they're trying to do it in the classroom as well. We do have a player down. It is Josh Mitchell for Nebraska. So the training staff will check out Mitchell.
The good news there is it looks kind of crampish in that right calf. You don't want to see injuries on either side of the field in a game like this today.
Mitchell's a sophomore from Corona, California.
You know what you said about Mike Kramer and the academic part at Idaho State, and that really is about what student athletes should be focused on, and it's a great time to kind of hit the reset button and make sure people understand really what this is about at this level. I know college football is a big business. It's not so big at the FCS level, but kids that do well in the classroom are more apt to do really well on the football field, and Mike Kramer understands that.
Bo Pelini understands that he starts Big Ten play next week, and his team looks primed and ready.
Wow, look at Eastern Michigan there against Michigan State. Michigan State is points challenged thus far in 2012.
Northwestern dominating South Dakota, that in the third. Jamal Turner is the deep man for this punt from Reyes. Skids at the 40. Turner scoops at the 35. Has some room to run. Pulled down at the 45-yard line. It's Jake Pele making the tackle. 21 yards on the return. We're going to step aside for just a moment. The best seat in the house. Top of the crane on that stadium expansion. Back to Nebraska after this. The sea of red at Memorial Stadium on a Saturday afternoon and now into the evening hours in Lincoln, Nebraska. Hurd gets pulled down. Now, stayed with it though, but they ruled him down at the 44-yard line, just inside the 45. There'll be no gain on the play.
Jake Rouser, 95, defensive end, coming from the left side, doing a very nice job of chasing that play down. And those are the little nuances that Nebraska has to work on up front. Cutting off the back side of a play that was really well blocked out the left side.
Hurd again. Made his move. Spun at the 40. Got down to the 37. Jake Rouser on the tackle. 95 in white. 7 yards on the carry.
Jake Rouser showing up for Idaho State. 95 is playing himself a nice game from that defensive line position.
And that is a guy who's been involved in a tussle. Look at the paint from
buckles,
the
broken
on his helmet there.
Scratches up front. He didn't even take time to shave this morning. That young man was jacked up to play here at Memorial Stadium.
Kellogg behind his receiver Tyler Evans, who had to adjust to the football and got popped by Donovan Henley as the football arrived.
Yeah, and Henley is that special athlete, kind of a track guy, speed guy in the back end for Idaho State. We haven't heard from much today, but a very good job of breaking on the ball. But ball placement by a young quarterback. Kellogg has that ball too far inside when it was a very easy pitch and catch if that ball's to the sideline.
Henley, who defended Tyler Evans on that play, an All-American from last year with 4 interceptions. So punting situation for Nebraska. 6:33 to go in the third quarter after a win last week on this field against Arkansas State, 42-13. Nebraska 59-0. And now we've got a flag on the field. Flag is way down at the 4-yard line.
Too many illegal substitution for Idaho State. They just were a little confused of who was supposed to be in there on this punt team.
Defense, 12 men on the field, 5-yard penalty.
It is against Idaho State.
You talk about the little things that Nebraska has to improve on. Actually, this is going to be a first down. The offense will probably obviously come back on the field. But Maher was getting ready to punt from the 50. Those are the little things that Nebraska has to do in a very, very high level going into conference play.
You know, it really, Kelly, looked like Nebraska was going to take the delay of game to allow for some more yardage for the punt, and then before they could, there was a penalty against Idaho State. So back to Hurd, who's got room into the secondary and across the 25 to the 22. Tayson Manu made the tackle. 10 yards on the carry, Damon Benning.
Yeah, there's that guy. You know, I'm telling you, it's no disrespect to Rex or Amir, but when you just look at him in small spaces, this guy is as good as they've got.
Wow, high praise from Damon. But you see the giftedness in those last couple of runs, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. And you got it right away, but when I say he needs the least amount of things to go right in order to be successful, he just finds creases, and when you run zone, it's imperative.
Nebraska on the season averaging over 530 yards of offense per game. That is second best in the Big Ten Conference. Having another productive afternoon. There was a flag on the play as Janovich made the carry, but again, a flag thrown at the 21-yard line.
During the play, holding, offense, number 56, 10-yard penalty, repeat second down.
Tim Beck talked to us about the offensive line, Damon, up front as well, and those guys have improved immensely, especially with the kind of who to get and how to get them mentality. Yeah. Their assignments have been great, but it's the targeting, it's the little things, placement of a foot, placement of a hand, the targeting type of things that have to get better.
When you watch those guys, you have to work as a unit and step the same and walk the same. It takes time, and they're just getting in their groove.
Hurd, 5-yard line, and Hurd goes in. It is Braylon Hurd. Touchdown Nebraska, and the rushing yardage is up to 445 for the game. Another TD, and this time it's number 5.
They're deep in the backfield, and Hurd, you see right there, Damon was talking about the vision and the patience. He pressed the line of scrimmage, and his vision took his feet to the outside after he was patient initially. That's the giftedness that Damon was just talking to us about where Hurd is concerned. Wow, that was a special run.
27-yard touchdown run for Braylon Hurd. 261 yards on the ground today for Nebraska. It is number 5 in scarlet and cream to the end zone, 66-0. Tom Osborne, the head coach here at Nebraska, from 73 to 97. 255 career wins and 3 national championships. To throw in 13 conference championships as well. The current athletic director here in Nebraska, the legend Tom Osborne, for whom this field is dedicated here at Memorial Stadium.
And you have to consider Nebraska fans had Bob Devaney and then Tom Osborne for 6+ decades. And then they had the Bill Callahan era that they would just soon forget. But it was Coach Osborne stepping back into the AD's position that really anchored this program once again, and now it's Bo Pelini looking to take him to another level. National championships
here in Nebraska in 1970, 71, 94, 95, and 97. Pleasant, close to the 15. Time to take a look at our Twitter answer. We wanted to know how many touches that Rex Burkhead would get during the course of the afternoon. How many carries would he have? Well, you could go 15 or more or 14 or less. Well, 23% of you.
15 or more with it not paying attention to us at the top of this game.
That's right. 8 carries, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of those runs for 61 yards, and he also had a catch for 25 yards as well, Kelly.
We gave them inside information. We said around 12. Pay attention at the top.
And we got that from the coaching staff.
Exactly. Not only the coaching staff, Bo Pelini himself told us that.
Well, Burkhead's coming off of injury. Looked pretty solid and stable today. Did have a little bit of a brace on that knee, but as Kelly astutely noted, he made several cuts early in the game to test out that sprained left knee, and he looked pretty good when he made those cuts, Kelly.
He really did, and I think the play calling was designed to test it in every way. Going to the right, cutting back to the left when you have to use it to push off, and all of those things I think were affirmative. I think he's ready to start conference play against Wisconsin next week.
6 yards for Aaron Pryor. It'll bring up 3rd and 5 for the Bengals of Idaho State.
The thing that Burkhead brings is not just his skill set to the backfield, but it's his leadership as a whole for this football team. And when a guy isn't in uniform, it's hard to be that consummate leader that Burkhead is.
Back in uniform today with a solid performance. Flags come out on that one. Cam Richmond, the intended receiver.
Antonio Bell, I think on the coverage, it was extremely tight, but I think he arrived just a little bit too early. Getting the ball out quickly on the quick slant, and yeah, absolutely. Bell went for a ride on Richmond on that play just a little bit too soon.
The other thing a game like this affords Bo Pelini and his staff, maybe get a look at some other players, some second and third string type guys to get some action and some game experience with 4:13 to go here in the third quarter. 1st and 10 after the penalty. That pass incomplete, looking for Derek Graves. Stanley Jean-Baptiste, number 16, in on the coverage.
Jean-Baptiste does a nice job. Man-to-man coverage, breaks on the ball, and remember, he was a wide receiver when he first got here, and actually a pretty good one at 6'3", 215, but doing a very good job on the back end for Nebraska now.
Junior from Miami, Florida, in that Husker secondary. A run up the middle to the 25-yard line, Aaron Pryor. And Harvey Jackson in there for Nebraska.
This Idaho State team, Tom, offensively, last year they had 38 rush attempts. They had 34 coming into this game. And so they obviously do not want to run the football very much. Their screen game is essentially their running game. They just haven't had much success here today against Nebraska.
As we said, their total offense average was 541, only 97 yards of that coming on the ground for an average. That pass a little bit beyond the intended receiver, Josh Hill, from Kevin Yost.
Being chased down the sideline by David Santos, he's a redshirt freshman, but he's that nickel will that plays in there a lot. And Damon talked about that backside of Nebraska's offense, the weak side in their nickel will or their peso defense. Santos is going to have to play big in conference play down the road.
Jamal Turner, the deep man at the 35, waiting for the punt from Reyes. Rugby style kick. We've seen it all afternoon. Perfect hop to Turner. Dancing and weaving his way up to the 35. So one of the big points that the coaching staff wanted to establish today was the return of Rex Burkhead, who in the first game of the season was injured. Now, during the course of this game against Southern Miss, he did have a run of 57 yards for a touchdown on the opening series of the game, but only had 3 carries because he got hurt kind of on an awkward play right here, and it was that left knee sprain. So he missed a couple of games, came back today, and looked very close to 100%. He's a guy who gets it done on the field and in the classroom, and all academic All-American from a season ago as a history major. So really exemplary of the student athlete in the Big Ten Conference, Rex Burkhead, the I-back from Nebraska. Braylon Hurd, number 5, center your picture. He also has a touchdown run. A Amir Abdullah has one as well. 2 for Burkhead. Monty Cross gets the call up to the 43 or 42-yard line. And Nebraska just continues to come at you, Damon, wave after wave with running backs. Burkhead out of the mix for a while. You plug in Abdullah, and now Hurd has played an exceptional game as well.
Yeah, it's really a nice luxury to have, and we talk about portability and what can you take with you in conference play, and you're going to get a steady dose of it as Nebraska shows you now the versatility to get in 2-back and come with power O and their G scheme toss. We're talking about the same team that emptied the backfield in the first quarter and can get in 12 personnel and throw the ball all over the yard. So when you talk about the multitude of running backs they have, it's going to fit in real well with as Big Ten conference play wears on, guys.
And all that skill set is diverse, and what that means to the defenses, especially in conference play in the Big Ten, is it changes the angles of those guys pursuing the offensive players, and all of that means something when you're talking about a little bit here and a little bit there, gaining yards, trying to extend drives. And when the angle changes defensively, sometimes that's certainly a positive for the offensive side of the ball.
Absolutely, especially when you're talking about run fits. Does this team want to get downhill? Do they need to want to play with width? Do they need to get lateral? You got a ton of things you got to worry about when you want to defend this offense on the ground.
The thing that I like is Tim Beck has really balanced it well with multiple personnel groups, formation, and all those things, but he hasn't really overloaded his own team. Although it's creating headaches defensively, his guys don't seem overloaded at all.
Yeah, he smiled like the Cheshire Cat yesterday when we talked about him having a lot of options to go to. And like we referenced earlier, when a coach can say, hey, who needs a touch? I mean, how many offensive coordinators in the conference can say that? Michigan State's struggling to score. So, I mean, we'll see how it transcends itself as the season wears on.
Tim Beck in his second year as offensive coordinator and 5th overall on the staff. 7-yard gain on the previous play. We're watching Imani Cross and Andy Janovich get involved in the offensive flow here with Ron Kellogg III running the offense. Zimmerer, number 31, gets a carry as well. Final 15 seconds of the third quarter here, and it appears that Nebraska is going to let it run out with a commanding 66-0 lead. After leading at halftime, and now a dominating performance continues for the Huskers. So we've got 15 minutes to go from Lincoln, Nebraska, between the Bengals and the Huskers. Amir Abdullah. The game is happening way too fast for the Bengals. The state capitol here in Lincoln, 66-0 Nebraska on top of Idaho State as we get ready to start the fourth quarter from historic Memorial Stadium. Just a perfect fall afternoon.
First day of fall.
Yeah, amazing day. Really perfect day. Right around 60 degrees. And we kicked it
Always
off.
this way in Nebraska.
This is football weather. Just perfect. Just a slight chill in the air for our game this afternoon. Ball on the turf. Idaho State says it has it. Imani Cross was the guy carrying the football for Nebraska. James Berggren, number 91, covers up.
Yeah, backup quarterback in Kellogg and Imani Cross, the true freshman, and that looked like it was seated well by the quarterback, and the young freshman running back just did not secure it. Ball security with young ball carriers along with pass protection are the last things to come along.
Catch made by Derek Graves. And CJ Reyes is the new quarterback. You might have seen CJ earlier in our broadcast as the Polaris hardest working player. Now he's the backup quarterback and he's in the game.
He's going to play defensive tackle next series.
He's going to go up and work on the stadium expansion after the game too.
That's a good story.
So Reyes out of the shotgun, all 5'7", 190 of them. Slings it to the sideline, and that is complete to Austin. Saw a little Doug Flutie in that toss for 7 yards there, Kelly.
Yeah, about 3/4. Sling it out from the hash to the far sideline. Very good route there by Austin. Decent timing by Reyes, and hey, move the chains. What the heck? He is the backup quarterback. Remember that. This is a violent game. Backups are literally one play away from having to take snaps. So why not get him work right here in this situation?
Reyes will run it. Will cover up at the 45. That was a fast closing Corey Cooper, number 6. Who almost sent Reyes into next week.
And Reyes, you could tell, learned on that botched punt that was blocked. He didn't get down in time, and Osborne about decapitated him. That time he got down a little bit sooner, and Corey Cooper came flying right over the top.
So Kevin Yost, the starter, out of there for Idaho State. He finishes 16 of 34, 123 yards and a couple of interceptions. 8 rushes for minus 33 yards, and that one falls incomplete for the Bengals. So Yost, who had come in with some gaudy numbers, contained by the Nebraska defense.
Another young defensive back for Nebraska, Charles Jackson, broke on the ball, and Nebraska is high on that young man as well. He has shown the ability to cover in tight spaces and man-to-man coverage. Number 21, Charles Jackson, we'll see him down the road in Lincoln also.
Complete. 40. Pryor inside the 30 and wrapped up by Harvey Jackson.
That was a rare screen to the running backs. Running backs aren't really figured much into the mix in the screen game. It's mostly outside to wide receivers, but against Nebraska, that's not a bad idea. The guys up front are just pinning their ears back to get to the quarterback and dump it over the top to Pryor on that play.
15 yards on that previous play. Idaho State has not entered the red zone all game long. Working inside the 30. Reyes got it away, looking for the end zone. And he connected. Luke Austin, 28 yards. Idaho State has its first points of the game.
I spoke too soon about number 21, Charles Jackson, covering in that back end for Nebraska. Actually very good coverage, but not good technique at the end. He didn't look back for the ball, and Idaho State finally gets it in the end zone with Luke Austin.
First touchdown catch of the season for Austin. Extra point for the Bengals. So Reyes on the drive goes 4 of 5, 54 yards, and right here he connects with Austin for the TD. Idaho State is on the board in Lincoln. 12:31 to go from Lincoln, Nebraska here in the fourth quarter. Idaho State and Nebraska. Coming up tonight in primetime, it's more football action. You'll see Minnesota take on Syracuse, or the Illini hosting Louisiana Tech. Coverage starts at 8 Eastern. Go to btn.com/gamefinder to find the game that's in your area. Idaho State coming off its first points of the game. A touchdown pass from Reyes to Luke Austin. Osborne stayed up past the 35. Let's go down to Damon.
Guys, tough, talented, and hard-nosed normally aren't words to describe special teams guys, but I played with a great punter who, oh, by the way, is Nebraska's head baseball coach, Darren Erstead. Coach, you give me that little smile, I'm going to get to the point here. I know you're straight to the point. Talk about the Big Ten Conference, the tough non-conference schedule. You want to build that RPI?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not just getting ready for regionals, we're getting ready to win the whole thing. And to do that, you have to host regionals. And we're going to put our team in position to do that. And not only that, but I want our guys prepared when we get to that point where they've seen those teams and they know what to expect, and they're ready to compete against them.
I was asking you earlier about a call to arms, who's going to throw for you. Talk a little bit about how you've been able to recruit. You've been all over the place.
Yeah, we were a little behind starting in June last year, and now we're up to speed. And for me, it's not hard to sell Nebraska. It's done a lot for me in my life and my family, and it's pretty much given me my family. And to be able to sell that is pretty easy for me. And fortunately, we've had some guys that like that sell.
How about you've got great facilities. The climate might be something folks use against you. What do you tell kids on the road about the opportunity to come here?
Well, I tell them, I say, if that's a single reason you're choosing a school that you want to come here, go to a place where it's warm weather, then we're probably not the right fit, and I shake your hand and walk out the door. So I usually touch that off right away. I like those kids that are a little tough and aren't afraid of a little cold weather, and there's plenty of them out there that have that mentality.
Do you think your personality will lend itself to a relatively young club as you get ready to take on the grind of this conference schedule?
Well, this year we have quite a bit of veterans. Next year we're going to bring in probably 12 or 13 freshmen and start from scratch. But I'll tell you one thing: they're going to play hard and they're going to respect this game and get after it. And so far we've been very fortunate to have some kids that are hooked up and really work hard, and it's been a lot of fun.
Coach, I appreciate it. You get the sense just by talking to him, he's all business. That's the way he approached the game. That's the way he approaches life. No nonsense, and it's worked out pretty well.
Thank you, Damon. And Coach Erstad. Let's take you out to our Chicago studios. Mike Hall with the BTN.com game break.
Tom, we got a close one in East Lansing. The Spartans are only up 2. Just moments ago, Deion Sims gets a 10-yard TD from Andrew Maxwell. 16-7. The Spartans do have the lead, but Eastern Michigan is driving as we speak.
Spartans in a tussle there against Eastern Michigan. 13 unanswered points. Come back and take the lead.
Michigan State has really struggled scoring points. Obviously a new quarterback, but also a new quarterback that has to work with the lack of playmakers out wide. They've had a hard time getting the ball in the end zone.
Not the case for Nebraska today against Idaho State.
You're right.
Imani Cross drags a tackler with him. It took 3 and 4 guys to finally bring him out of bounds. He picked up 8 on the play. So that'll stop the clock. 9:57 to go.
We look at a lot of backups and even third-team guys in there now offensively for Nebraska, but we understand in college football that Nebraska's season really comes down to number 3, Taylor Martinez, playing down the stretch. And it's not winning games early in the year, it's winning games in late October and November that Taylor Martinez's legacy is going to be judged by here in Lincoln. Does he win championships? And I think he's shown very good improvement thus far this year, and we'll see if he can extend that into conference play starting next week.
It was Zimmerer on the carry. Man, those pads and helmets still cracking out there.
These young players want to play the game too, Tom. It's trying to get playing time, and it's precious when you play at a place like Nebraska. Playing time is very competitive in order to get on the field.
Marrow on the carry for Nebraska.
That's Morrow on that carry, and that's a position that we really haven't seen Nebraska establish in the last couple of years, is that fullback position. I know Damon played behind fullbacks all the time, and you would think they would play a more significant role going into Big Ten play starting next week, but Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator, talked about they've been a little inconsistent as a group at the fullback position, and he wants them to take a step forward.
Cross into the end zone. Bouncing off Bengals for 20 yards and a touchdown.
Cross had a miscue in the backfield earlier in this game, makes up for it on this play, and you see the tough running. 6'1", over 200 pounds, and still growing as a true freshman.
He smashed into Deshaun Perkins near the goal line, bounced off him and went in. How about 343 total rushing yards for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who now lead it 73-7. Back to Lincoln after this. BTN Football is brought to you by State Farm. For auto, home, life, and banking, get to a better state. By Verizon, call ** NFL to get coverage of every NFL game on NFL Mobile from Verizon. And by Case IH, be ready with proven leadership. To learn more, visit caseih.com/4 is greater than 2. What a day in Lincoln, Nebraska. Sun splashed here at Memorial Stadium. Amani Cross, with his second rushing touchdown of the year, has made the score 73-7. Evidently, it's
what is that all about?
Shake your shoes day.
I understand the corn cobs on the head, but I don't know what the deal is with the shoes. Oh, the kickoff.
There you go.
We go. They're signifying that the kickoff is coming.
It's a shoe off. It's been all Nebraska today. Led 45-0 at halftime, and these fans will enjoy another victory. Nebraska will improve to 3-1. Back to Lincoln after this. Our U.S. Marine leader is that man right there, number 42, Sean Fisher, the senior from Omaha, Nebraska, 4.0 GPA in business administration. And Damon Benning has more on Sean Fisher.
Guy's talented family. He's got a brother that's at Iowa and another younger brother that stepped in last night for the #1 ranked team in the state, Miller North, filling in at quarterback, didn't miss a beat, put the dual threat, threw it as well as he ran it last night, leading them to a victory over Burke.
Aaron Pryor on the run for Idaho State. He went 27 yards. Sean Fisher plans to attend medical school when he gets done here at Nebraska. Student athlete. That MCAT score, I'm being told, is 3 points higher than the average Harvard student. So that's a talented young man, both on the football field and in the classroom. Pryor, another carry for Idaho State. Fisher, the senior from Omaha, Nebraska. And it appears that he, along with many of his other fellow starters, their day ended a long time ago, as it's been all Nebraska in dominating fashion against Idaho State out of the football championship subdivision. Both of these teams will start league play next week. Idaho State in the Big Sky, and Nebraska hosting Wisconsin in an evening game here in Lincoln next Saturday to get the conference schedule started.
I think Nebraska is well positioned to start conference play. I think they match up well against the teams that play more traditional offenses, and the teams that are spreading it out a little bit are having trouble scoring points. So I think Nebraska's second year in the Big Ten is going to look much different in conference play than it did in year one.
Nebraska follows up the Wisconsin game with road trips at Ohio State and then October 20th at Northwestern. So that's how the Big Ten schedule shapes up in the early going for the Huskers. Walker Ashburn on the tackle. Loss of one of Reyes.
I think Reyes might be questioning his decision to agree to be the backup quarterback in a situation like this. Very good decision, nothing open downfield, but then you realize you have to run up into a sea of red, which is not very pleasant.
Goes just 5'7" and 190 pounds, but hanging with the big guys from Nebraska. A fine defensive play, and that is Jace Dean, 31.
Tom, you were talking about Nebraska's schedule. They have Wisconsin that is more of a power team, and I think that's a good matchup for Nebraska, and I think Nebraska's explosive offense can outscore Wisconsin. And then Ohio State, a dual threat quarterback, and Northwestern, a dual threat quarterback. That's been a problem for Nebraska's defense, and obviously Nebraska fans want to see if they have those problems rectified at this point. And then obviously Denard Robinson in Michigan, and then Michigan State, and then down the road with Penn State, Minnesota, and finishing with Iowa. I think Nebraska is right in the mix of things in the Big Ten this year.
That pass play broken up. Nebraska's coming off a season last year when it went 9-4, 6-1 at home, and lost the Capital One Bowl to South Carolina. And you get a look at that remaining schedule for Bo Pelini.
And got drummed by Michigan and Wisconsin. And so what people want to see is, how does Nebraska play on the road in this conference? Last year, the returns weren't very good. I think Bo Pelini's defense, to me, looks better. They had a much better outing against Arkansas State, a similar type of offense that they're going to see at Northwestern and Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten. So I think they have a lot of good things going. And Bo Pelini talked to us yesterday. The first 3-4 weeks of the season was about building chemistry, finding niches for guys on the defensive side to prepare for next week and when the conference slate starts. And I think he likes what he sees defensively out of his guys.
Reyes in to punt, or who knows what he might do.
I think he remained in to punt, right?
Yeah, he did. Didn't leave the ball game. Now he kicks this one out of bounds, and it will be marked.
That was a nice effort.
At the 11-yard line. All right, news and notes around college football. And we start with Denard Robinson taking on the Irish. It's Denard Robinson's birthday. See if he gets a present there.
That's going to be a harder matchup for Notre Dame than Michigan State was last week. I look for Michigan to be in that right at the end.
That's a 7:30 game. LSU against Auburn. Number 2 team in the nation.
Yeah, they certainly look number 2 in the nation, I would think.
Big Ten play next week. UCLA is the team that beat this Nebraska team in the second week of the season out at the Rose Bowl. Thrown from the crowd. Was the ball on the turf? Well, Idaho State says it has the football, and they certainly do.
Bronson Marsh was in there at quarterback this particular time, and just you have new people in the backfield and miscommunication from quarterback to running back, and the ball ends up on the ground. And even when you're up 73-7, those kind of things aren't pleasant for a head coach.
Ethan Monroe on the cover for Idaho State. Xavier Finney on the carry. And the folks who have remained for the final moments of this game trying to spur on that Nebraska defense to keep Idaho State out of the end zone. Catch up on all of today's Big Ten action with the State Farm post-game show. That is coming up. Dave Revson and the gang from our Chicago studios. We had 7 games on the Big Ten Network today. We've got 2 coming up in prime time also. Reyes to the end zone. Looking for Richmond, and it got batted away. Daniel Davey on the coverage.
Davey doing a very nice job on the fade route into the corner of the end zone. And you first play the eyes of the receiver, and then you play the hands, and then ultimately you turn and defend the ball. And Davey was good on all 3 phases on that play.
So this is now 3rd and 7. The Bengals can get a first down at the 2-yard line. Reyes out of the shotgun. Actually with a pistol formation with a running back behind him, but before we can get to that, we have a timeout on the field. Taken by the Bengals. Now for today's Verizon Key Connection. Taylor Martinez to Kenny Bell. It was just a little flip forward, but ruled a pass. So Kenny Bell takes it. And what does he do? He goes 68 yards, and Martinez gets credited with a 68-yard pass play and a TD.
Yeah, the quarterback, Martinez, had the easy job there. Flip it forward and get credit for kind of a catch and carry.
Yeah, that's going to be one of the shortest throws for an 80-yard completion that we've seen in a long time. So the Verizon Key Connection, it is Martinez to Bell. And we've seen all facets, Damon Benning, of this Nebraska offense on display today.
Yeah, it has been an impressive performance, and they haven't seemed to miss a beat with the exception of the exchange there. And I think that's one of the things that the staff can hang their hat on, having those interchangeable parts.
3rd and 7, Damon. Bengals can get a first down, but the pass gets batted. Will Richards, number 19, with the tip. Will Richards playing some inspired football, getting his chance to get in on some of the action.
And if Richards didn't tip it at the second level, Davey was going to pick it off in the end zone. Very good coverage. Richards doesn't have anything to do. Drop into coverage, look at the eyes of the quarterback and try to get in the throwing lane, and got his right hand on it.
27-yard field goal attempt. Kick is no good. Brendan Garcia misses. Don't forget, coming up next, stay tuned after the game for the State Farm post-game show. Dave Refson orchestrates the situation in our Chicago studios. All of your highlight scores and stats. Another big Saturday in the Big Ten, and a big score for Bo Pelini's team, 73-7. This is the most points scored by a Nebraska-coached Bo Pelini team. Cross had the run there. Only 24 yards.
You know, Monte Cross does a nice job of bouncing it outside once again. Damon talked about the vision, the patience. You don't see the burst there that you see out of Hurd, but Cross obviously has the physicality to run between the tackles.
3:47 and counting in the fourth quarter. Bronson Marsh on the carry. Very short gain, if any, from Marsh. James Berggren on the tackle.
2nd down and 9 from the 45-yard line.
Damon, we've talked about this yesterday, and going forward in the Big Ten, what do you see happening with this team? You're around them a lot. Do they have the ability to compete for a championship in their second year in this conference?
Yeah, I actually do. You know, they've got to find some guys up front that I think can give them a good chance to get some ball clubs that really want to commit to the run game. But outside of that, with the little shore-ups of the special teams guys, they're as good as anybody, if not better than anybody in the conference on offense. It's going to be about the play of that defensive front going forward.
We did have a flag on the previous play. Marsh is in at quarterback. Kellogg and Martinez have had action today for Bo Pelini. Now to the 3rd string, and Marsh. Again, a flag on the play with 3:07 to go in the fourth quarter. This October, the creators of BTN's award-winning original series, The Journey, will give fans an unprecedented look at the student athletes and coaches as they battle through the season. The Journey, Big Ten Football 2012, presented by Best Buy, premieres October 3rd on BTN. Idaho State's journey from Pocatello, Idaho, ended right here in Lincoln, Nebraska, almost immediately. Rex Burkhead with a 61-yard TD run at the 11:41 mark of the first quarter, and the Huskers never looked back from that point. 73-7, 2.5 minutes to go in the game.
And the best part about that is Mike Kramer, the head coach for Idaho State, told us yesterday, they know that come Sunday morning that check's not going to bounce. They will get lessons from playing here in Lincoln and the historic nature of this place for sure, and be able to take them back to the Big Sky Conference, along with $600 grand, by the way, that really helps fund the entire athletic department. It's important for FCS schools to get this opportunity.
Cross on the run, put the shoulder down, up to the 40. They still can't drag him down. Crosses the 45.
He's a physical runner. There's no question about that. I think his place is kind of between the tackles, and that guy that can get up in there and soften the front seven a little bit. We have a chance. I want to talk to Damon. You see this into this run, boom, lower the shoulder. and be the deliverer of the blow at the end and not the guy that gets hit. But Damon, as you look at Nebraska's schedule going forward, where do you see any potential stumbling blocks in that conference schedule?
Well, I think the first test is obviously going to be in Columbus. You know, you've got to win a big game on the road and kind of get that signature win for Coach Pelini. And then you got to take a look at the team that, from a style standpoint, has given Nebraska the most trouble, and that's them having to travel up to Evanston and take a look at a tough Northwestern ball club.
Yeah, I think Ohio State and Northwestern back-to-back, and I think the style of offense they run with dual threat quarterbacks running both of them, I think they're both on the road. Nebraska has to prove they can win on the road in this league, like you said. I think if they can get through those 2 games unscathed, I think the ceiling is the limit with these guys.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, Northwestern is just one of those teams that has the patience to kind of offset what Nebraska doesn't like to give up on offense. You know, Nebraska's a team that plays it safe, does not like to give up those vertical seams. They like the combo coverage. Northwestern can steady Eddie you to death and have enough playmakers to cause concerns, and then it's always tough to win in Columbus at night.
I remember this program going on the road for those 2 teams. They haven't played there yet. The second time around, you're going to new places as well. So after this year, obviously, they've been everywhere, but 2 important games, October 6th and October 20th.
Reyes gets rid of it. Completed the 25-yard line. Braden Mitchell made the catch. It's only 17 seconds to go. Remember, we've got 2 more games coming up on the Big Ten Network tonight. Syracuse against Minnesota, Louisiana Tech and Illinois, both of those 8 Eastern. Final seconds will tick off the clock. And the Nebraska Cornhuskers have the victory. For Bo Pelini, his 42nd as head coach of the Huskers. That'll do it from Lincoln, Nebraska. 73-7. That's our final. Nebraska wins it. Coming up, it's the State Farm post-game report with Dave, Howard, and Jerry with all the scores and highlights from a busy week number 4. So for Kelly Stauffer and Damon Benning, I'm Tom Wormy saying so long from Lincoln, Nebraska. It's the Huskers over the Bengals on BTN.